want to apologize to the viewing public and to, listen up, everyone. I want to apologize to the viewing public and to the members of the administration and everyone's here. There was an issue with one of the departments which we had to discuss with the law department, and that discussion is over. So now we are going to resume back as soon as our members come back in the room. And again, I appreciate everybody's patience. And Madam Clerk, tell me as soon as we have a quorum in the room. Thank you. The Cleveland City Council resumed discussion of the 2025 annual general fund budget and other enterprise funds and special accounts. We are back in session. Madam Clerk, where do we begin? We're going back to the original schedule.
Page 241, Division of Animal Care and Control.
Thank you.
Manager
41.
Bruce Campbell. Page 242, 2024 unaudited salaries and wages, $1,511,233. 2025 budgeted, $1,936,374. Page 243, 2024 unaudited total expenditures, $2,958,462. 2025 budgeted, $3,832,325. Page 245, number of employees as of December 2024, 35. Budgeted 2025, 44. Chair.
Thank you. Okay, is the animal, excuse me, is Mr. Bruce Campbell here in attendance?
To the chair, he is. He's
Yes,
an
will you
audience.
please
Would
come
you like
up?
him table?
I'd like him to come to the table.
Bruce?
Okay, I thank you, Madam Clerk. On page 242,
Yes.
under professional services, there has been a significant increase there. Can someone explain to me what that is? Commit to the committee.
Through the chair, the professional services breakdown is $115,000 for the APL for various services, about $100,000 for other spay and neuter services, and $150,000 for the West Park Animal Hospital for their medical services for injured or sick animals.
Okay, for the again, if you could provide to us some more detailed explanation for the APL. What is that for? What are we paying the APL for?
Bruce. Yes.
Campbell, identify yourself, sir.
Yes, sir. My name is Bruce Campbell. I'm the manager of Animal Care and Control.
Okay.
And the APL, we get a couple of different services from the APL. That we do a trap, neuter, release of feral cats. And so cats that are caught and turned in over to the APL, they're neutered and then they're re-released into where they were found.
Okay.
And then the other services are spay and neuter services. Any dog that's adopted out of our facility has been spay and neutered. So we stop the proliferation of
Yes.
animals in the city.
Well, as you are aware, and I am an animal, I have, I don't want to say an animal lover, because in being a councilman, I don't know whether it's, so one day it's love, or another day it might be hate, okay, be considering the calls I get. But but I am a dog owner, and the dog I have is, Lady is a very old girl that I got from the pound, and under mysterious circumstances, to say the least, but nevertheless, I have her for 16 years. And she is very, very special to me. My question is this. On page 245, I see 0 for animal control officer, and I see 0 for registered animal health technician. Can you explain to me why those positions are vacant?
They just moved them to full-time.
Animal control officer.
Through the chair,
And it revolves around, do we have adequate staff to deal with the problem, and I've been following as well, the fact that the pound was overpopulated significantly by the number of dogs that have been turned in, dogs that have been picked up, animals that have been picked up. And so I want to make sure to the administration, to the finance director, to the safety director, and to Mr. Campbell, I want to know if the staff that we have there is adequate to deal with the problems that we're experiencing in our neighborhoods.
We're working, the positions you were speaking about are part-time positions, and we've kind of opted part-time positions when we've had multiple openings and filling them with full-time positions. We filled quite a few positions this last year.
Okay.
In my first year on the job, we finally, for the first time in the last 5 years, have all the management positions filled, operations manager, new chief animal control officers, and we're up to 12 animal control officers, and we do have some open positions this year that we're adding more. And once we add those positions, we'll kind of reassess where we're at with animal care workers and animal control officers and clerks. Those are our key positions. And the animal care workers are the folks that work inside the kennel that feed and clean and take the dogs out every day,
Okay.
a couple times a day.
How many trucks do you have running now?
Currently, we have 8 animal control officer vehicles, and then we have a chief's vehicle, then we have an SUV, and then we have a pickup with a dump bed on it. So we're up to 8 animal control vehicles.
So, and what's the condition of overall fleet?
Decent. We just got a new vehicle last year. We're anticipating a vehicle coming in, a van-style vehicle that we're interested in trying that out. It's narrower for the streets with with vehicles parked on it,
Okay.
easier to lift dogs. We found that the vehicles we have, we're looking to try something different. It's hard to
Okay.
get dogs into the bigger vehicles, but
And where in your budget into the finance director is for the critter control component?
Through the chair, that's also under professional services.
So on page 242, professional service, that's where that would be. And so
That's correct.
that is for what, for the pickup raccoons?
critter control will help us out with some of the animals that we pick up, raccoons, but they're primarily skunks. We get overwhelmed. The sheer amount of wildlife in the city is overwhelming for this. It's an enormous project
And
considering the
does
staff
that
we
include
have.
groundhogs?
Groundhogs, possum, skunk,
Okay.
and raccoons.
Okay. And let me see what else before I open up the floor for questioning. We did make pre-budget requests, and I appreciate the information you did provide to us. I guess there's still some that is, I think we're waiting to receive, if I'm not mistaken. Let me look at this. I've noticed that there has been a significant increase in the number of animals that you've had to euthanize starting in 2022, 2023, 2024. Is that just because of the number of animals being picked up or turned in, or what's contributing to that?
Yeah, I would say 2022 was low. That was just coming out of the pandemic.
Yeah.
And as you can see, those numbers have gradually increased over the period of time to where it's just a sheer volume and numbers game, so to speak. We have 156 kennels that we can put dogs in. 40 of those kennels are for smaller dogs. 116 kennels are for average and large dogs, and then we leave 3 kennels open for police drop-offs at night.
Okay.
But the sheer call volume just continues to go up every year, and that's just how it's going.
And
Sorry.
we had asked in the course of the pre-budget request, we had asked that, how many individuals in the city were cited for animal cruelty, illegal breeding, illegal boarding. Did you ever provide that?
Yes. We did not file any charges in animal cruelty. We work with our colleagues at the APL, and their humane investigators typically
Okay.
will handle cruelty and neglect cases. So that we turn a lot of those over to them. But when they're inundated, we're doing more training with our own ACOs to begin handling those. And we did not file any charges for illegal breeding. Those are very hard to. We don't come across them. If we came across them, we would work
Okay.
with the proper agencies to address those. But we don't run across that.
Okay.
They're usually pretty undercover or smaller in nature, so they're not really
Okay.
blatant out in the public's eye.
And again, I'll make the same offer I made to you last year, this time. If there's anything within the animal cruelty laws, anything within the codified ordinance that you believe that we need to amend, we need to improve upon, then you need to let us know. I'm not aware of anybody at this table who is opposed to increasing or dealing with animal cruelty and those people who are involved in some of these questionable activities in our neighborhood. So again, if there's something, Mr. Campbell, in the course of your work and your administration of animal control, if there's something additional that you think you need from us, then we need to know that. Because when you talk about council people being on a firing line, everybody at this table is dealing with this issue. All of us are dealing with it, and especially when the weather warms up, it is something that we're all dealing with. So you've picked up a total of 2,627 wild animals. I guess that's the best way to describe groundhogs, raccoons, possums. Is that an increase or decrease from previous years?
It's increased over the last 3 years. Every year, it's more.
A steady
Yeah.
increase.
Steady
So
increase.
again, from a standpoint of the budget, if we need to look at critter control, increasing that, then that might be part of budget reconciliation. Because we all know it's going up, but here's the guy that's in charge of the division. He's telling us the problem is getting bigger each year. And if we're going to be on top of this, then he needs to have the tools within the budget to deal with it. So I'm going to stop there, Councilman Conwell. You had a question. Oh, excuse me, Blaine Griffin. It's been one of those days, okay?
All right. Just a couple of things for clarification through the chair. Where and have you broken out how much you have dedicated in professional services? But let me ask this in two ways. Is the cages and the critter control all out of professional services, or is it a combination of small equipment and professional services and or other contractual?
Through the chair, you're mentioning, are you, through the
Page
chair,
242 under contractual services, trying to understand what the breakout
Down is.
of that's dedicated strictly towards the critter control, the possums, the groundhogs, the raccoons, etc.
would be out of professional services.
Okay, do we know what amount or what percentage or what dollar amount is dedicated towards that, and has that increased or has that stayed the same?
Yeah, so through the chair to the councilman, we have 360,000 that is identified as things other than critter control. So I believe the remaining 90,000 is for critter control.
I'd say the last year is my first year here, but it was about $100,000. And sometimes, again, they face similar challenges as many agencies do. We've called on them to help, and sometimes they don't have the staffing to be able to assist in the way that we need them to. But it's a good partnership. They've been very good contractors for the city.
So here's what I'm really trying to understand. I know that for many of us, critter control is very important. I know that people think that it's a small issue, but I can tell you every week I have some elderly person who tell me how these groundhogs have eaten through the foundation of their house and everything else. What I'm really trying to get a grasp on is, are you guys really adding to the budget, or do we need to figure out through reconciliation how much we really need to put forth towards a comprehensive plan to doing that? Let me say this. I do think it's gotten better. I don't know if that's a result of what actions we've taken as a city, and that's why I'm trying to quantify as well as qualify what we're doing, but or if it's just natural progression that they found somewhere else to go.
Well, it's a good question to the chair, to Councilman,
Yes.
Council President Griffin. That's a really good question. I think we, through our efforts to expand, obviously, more housing and so forth, encroach more and more in their territory. So I think we're doing a good job. The division, Animal Care and Control, is doing a good job, but it's a major problem that's not going to get any better. Bruce and I and others, we've sat down. We're actually talking through critter control, coming up with maybe some other recommendations relative to critter control. We're not ready to share that right now, but it's something that we are reevaluating based on some recommendations, and we'll probably be coming back to this body for some of our thoughts and recommendations that may need to be funded.
Thanks. Through the chair to the director and to the team. it'll be good to understand unit costs of how much it is to do each one of those runs, how many cages we have. We've been getting reports that there are people that have had to wait for several weeks for cages, that they're not always promptly picked up, and sometimes there's often red tape to say that that they can't be picked up. So we really just want to make sure that we understand if we're investing right in this, and I'm trying to extrapolate from each one of these line items where we're actually making that investment. And I'm trying to move around, and I'm not quite zeroing in on it. So maybe you guys don't need to do it right now, but if you can get back to me to say, here's out of the professional services how much we're contributing. And to your point, I've been looking and researching this, maybe metro parks or maybe other animal control specialists or other cities that have best practices in dealing with this, that we can beef that up in order to make sure that we have more accessibility. And I really think we got to educate our constituents, because everybody don't know how to identify all of this. So I would love to understand if that's through regular public safety admin, through educational materials, or that would be animal control.
Through the chair, all the things you've just hit on, we've discussed in essence. All the things you talked about. Educational piece is huge. That's something we discussed. You're right. I think some folks don't understand. So part of that, as Bruce and I talked about, and the chief animal control officer, we talked about it, and the educational part was a huge component of that, coupled with the best practices throughout the United States. So we're looking at all of those things to put it all together with a plan, again, that we're going to put forward, and hopefully within the next couple months or less.
Chief, what I would really like to be in a position to do, or director, I can't give you a demotion, you got a promotion. What I would really like to do is be able to go to my community meeting and be able to say, here's how much we prioritize, and this is the amount that we've dedicated to the budget. Because people are going to call us and ask us, what can you do, Councilman, about these critters? Or what can you do about XYZ? I need to start being in a position to go to our community and say, here's the plan, here's what we've invested in, here's your taxpayer dollars at work. We've prioritized your concern. So if we can work together to get something like that, it would be great for me to be able to go to the community to show a dollar amount and how we're contributing through educational materials, as well as a comprehensive plan, cages, everything else to eradicate this issue. Last but not least, if we could, and that could just be a follow-up. I would love to see how that works, but that could be a follow-up. Last but not least, adjudication. I've gotten reports that APL is kind of tough on people, and that they actually try to bring up charges on certain people when people are just simply trying to, remediate or mitigate the problem on their properties. Is that true? And if that's the case, are we footing any bills for prosecution or anything else, fines or fees, and are we getting a component of that if we are levying those through the APL?
I don't believe, I can't speak to their practices. I meet with both shelter leaderships at the county and at APL monthly, and if there's any concerns of over prosecution or over enforcement issues with our residents, we certainly can address that internally with their management staff. I don't think anything that they charge for, they have their own magistrate for humane investigations. If they're prosecuting a case, the city's not getting, I don't believe, I could be wrong, I don't think they're getting the fines on the issues that they're.
If we could, Director, and if we could, Finance Director, find out if that is the case. What is their process for prosecution? This may be the exception and not the rule. I did get about 2 or 3 people that told me that APL literally tried to bring them up on charges for trapping critters. And it's either save their house or trap the critter. And I'm going to trap the critter if I'm trying to save my house. But I should not be getting adjudicated through APL if that's the case. So I just want to make sure that if that's the case, and I'm always a stickler for city finances, if that is the case, are we getting the money that we should be getting out of that deal?
Through the chair, we'll take a look at that.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Mr. Chair.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. Other questions of animal control? Yes. Yes, Ms. Spencer.
Thank you. Through our chair, wanting to briefly inquire about the relationship between City Dogs and our kennel. Specifically, is City Dogs providing any subsidy material? Basically, is there a shortfall in any material necessity that the city is not providing that as a result that volunteer-led organization is being asked to provide through the chair?
Director, and to Mr.
Yes, sir. Through the chair to the councilwoman. Yeah, City Dogs is our volunteer adoption arm of the kennel, and Friends of City Dogs is the 501c3. We couldn't operate at the level that we do without them. We have over 200 volunteers that come into that kennel. There's people there every single day, walking dogs, providing that enrichment that we just couldn't do, and we couldn't possibly employ that many people to do the work that they do for us. Friends of City Dogs does a lot of fundraising. They work booths at every Browns game. They raise a lot of money, and they pay for a lot of medical care that the city, we pay for spay and neuters, and there's some dogs that we feel that are very adoptable, that have extensive medical care. They pay for a lot of the medical care for dogs that are in our foster care. We probably have about 24 dogs in foster care with our volunteers. So they're an incredible part and a big part of the City of Cleveland's kennel. And they provide things that it's an immeasurable amount of work that they do for us.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think something to be attentive to in the budget cycle generally is City Dogs taking on more than its charge in terms of there being a shortfall in city resources. So that's kind of what I was trying to tease out. Without a doubt, it's a really beneficial, mutually beneficial relationship, and the animals in the kennel experience a much better outcomes because of City Dogs and Friends of City Dogs. But I'll leave it at that for now, Mr. Chair.
Well,
Thank you.
I'll be a little bit more explicit. Some of us, including Jenny, Councilwoman Spencer, myself, and some others, received emails and calls that you had inadequate hygiene and cleaning supplies, you did not have adequate vaccinations, or you had run out of vaccinations or are at that point. Is there a problem under materials and supplies as it pertains to your operation? Do you have the cleaning materials? Do you have the vaccinations? Do you have the medical equipment that you need?
Through the chair, yes, we have the things that we need. I think that was an isolated incident last year. That those emails came out, and
Okay.
there was everything was processed on our end, and wherever it hit a bottleneck in the purchasing or somewhere in the city, in the city hall somewhere. But
Okay.
we did get that done, and that was, I think, an isolated incident. So we
Okay.
are doing things more, making sure proactively that we allow enough time to get those things filled. So it's not a financial, I think, it's a process.
Yeah, because going back to people from City Dogs were bringing in supplies to augment our operation, and no citizen should have to do that.
To the chair, absolutely, you're correct, and as Manager Campbell stated, that was an isolated incident. We have measures in place to make sure we have sufficient amount of materials and medicines for the
Okay.
animals.
Well, that's what we want to be assured. This is, as the council president indicated, in the big scheme of things, I know when you talk about police, fire, and EMS, we understand their importance, but I tell you, this is an area we get a lot of calls on, and we want to make sure that our citizens are being serviced and that we're doing everything we can for, as my mother would tell me, take care of God's creatures and he'll take care of you. I've never forgotten that. So, any other questions? Sure. Yes, Councilman McCormick.
20 seconds, Chair. Given this is my last budget hearing, I did not
miss
say
it.
that with joy.
You're gonna
I
miss
promise.
it, right,
I'm gonna miss it.
Right.
No, I do want to thank the team with Animal Control and your partnership with APL and all the other folks. I mean, you guys do an incredible job. I call them our babies, our four-legged and other friends in the world, especially those dogs that have been abused otherwise and rehousing them. So I just want to thank you and your team. I know that you guys work really hard on a daily basis to ensure that animals, especially those that have faced cruelty, find better homes. I'm a proud parent of two that came out of the system so a long time ago, so I understand it. And the one has some needs, but I love him just like any other dog I've had. But I do want to recognize you and your team. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Without any further ado, we will move on. Thank you very much, Mr. Campbell.
Bruce. Great job.
And keep us apprised of what's going on in animal care and control.
Point of information as well.
Yes.
I also have a little one from the kennels as well.
Good.
We've had
We
for
want,
about
we
8
want to-
years, so
well, while
absolutely.
we're, the viewing public, we need you to adopt dogs. We need you to go to the city kennel. What is the fee now for an adoption?
Right now, for $61, we do numerous reduced fee adoption events throughout the year for $21. That gets you a dog that's vaccinated, licensed, spay and neutered, and microchipped. And for the fee of $21 or even $61, we have some amazing dogs. We like to say we have great dogs from a great city, and that's one of our slogans.
Okay,
from Friends
so
of City
for
Dogs.
the viewing public, between $21 and $61, you can get your lifelong pal and buddy to be at home with you and to take care, right, and to take care of any unwanted characters that come to your house. So please become an adoptive parent of a pet in the city of Cleveland. Thank you, Mr. Campbell.
Thank you for your support.
Okay,
Appreciate it.
staff, what's the next?
Page 246, Division of Corrections. Corrections Liaison Lisa Scafidi.
236, House of Corrections.
246.
246, excuse me.
Page 247, 2024 unaudited salaries and wages, $157,713. 2025 budgeted, $153,548. 2024 unaudited total expenditures, $3,757,952. 2025 budgeted, $3,970,336. Page 248, number of employees December 2024, 2, budgeted 2025, 2. Chair.
Okay. On page 247, under contractual services, medical services, there's been a big jump there. Can you explain that one to us? Under contractual services, from $439,000 to $750,000.
To the chair, this is pre-booking medical, so this is kind of what we budget, and then the actual last year just came in at less.
Okay. So what you're telling us that you're, what's the best way to describe it? You're overcompensating with the hope that you don't need all those funds, correct?
Well, to the chair, if you look at the past expenses, especially in 2023, these can be a little bit more volatile than other expenses.
Yes.
So, we ensure that we have plenty of room in the budget for those expenses.
Okay. So why not come in like it's 650 or 600,000?
To the chair, to the chair, this is just what we estimated, just to be safe. Again, we've had one really bad year. We kind of budget around this amount
Okay.
each time.
Okay. To the whoever can answer, how many prisoners did we house last year that were identified as Cleveland, how do you describe it? I want to say Cleveland
Cleveland
residents.
inmates?
Cleveland inmates. There we go. Thank you.
To the chair, 6,532.
So that was the correct number. Okay. And what's the charge per inmate?
To the chair, at this point is $99.
And when does that contract, when does that expire?
I believe it expires,
Through,
say again?
no, through
Is there an expiration date on that?
through the chair, there's a percentage increase allowed per year.
Okay.
But it did not expire. So I think it's a 2% inflator if the county,
Inflation, based on inflation?
no, it's a 2%. They can send a 2% increase, but they've not done it. So
So for the viewing public, for all of the Cleveland inmates identified as Cleveland inmates, the county is charging us $99 per day.
That's correct. At this particular, Jim, unless I'm correct, at this
Okay.
particular time, yes.
And then our health costs on top of that 99?
Through the chair to the councilperson, I think once they're in custody of the county, we do not pay additional health charges.
Okay, so the 750 is for Cleveland inmates only.
Through the chair, that's correct.
Okay. Questions yes, Councilman Casey.
I'm not sure if you asked this question. The $750,000 is for the $99 per day per inmate, correct?
Through the chair to the councilman.
I'm sorry, page 247.
Yeah.
No, that's from the medical services, correct?
Correct.
And then the $3 million is for the $99
That's correct.
a day per inmate?
Correct.
How much, I know it says in here it's unaudited, but do we know what we paid last year? Because we know that the county is coming to us wanting $174. $178, right? But they signed a contract, and I do not believe there's a 2% in the agreement, right? It's just a $99 a day per inmate that the agreement does not expire, and that's the problem.
It's a 2% in there. It's not necessarily, it's 2% that they can ask to Gentile's point. They have not requested a 2%, but there is a 2% that they can ask from us each year. They have not done that.
They can ask. It doesn't mean that we have to give it to them.
Right.
That's something would have to be negotiated through
Correct.
law and finance.
Have we ever spent the whole, Mr. Chairman to the director, have we ever spent the whole $3 million that we've budgeted for?
Through the chair to the councilperson, last year, this is the actual expense. It's not been audited by our auditors, but it is $3 million last year.
3.5.
Okay. And then the project coordinators, right? Why do we need an increase? Because now that we're out of the jail business, Mr. Chairman to the director, it was always, we had one person who would told the time for us for when they got arrested to when they got charged, which is when they come out of our custody and into the county's custody. Why the need for an additional person in there when we know that that individual has been doing a yeoman's job for the last 10 years, I think?
Through the chair to Councilman Casey, Lisa Scafidi is the jail manager, as you're aware, and Nigel is her assistant. They have different duties and responsibility, but I have a philosophy in the Department of Public Safety. We can't have one point of failure. If Lisa decided to retire tomorrow, I want to make sure that we have someone in there who can continue the duties and so forth. So I will not just have one person in there to complete the task. It requires two people, and Lisa Scafidi does a tremendous job in making sure that we save as much money.
Oh, yeah.
As you know,
I know.
Here in the city of Cleveland. So it's required. Nigel does similar duties to Lisa. They have different responsibilities, but it's required. We must have at least two individuals in there to make sure, again, that we're doing our due diligence to make sure we're saving the city tons of money.
All right, and then Mr. Chairman to the director, when was Nigel hired as a staff member over there?
Through the chair to Councilman Casey, Nigel was employed with the city when we still had our corrections and so forth, and he came over after we disbanding the correction officers once we got rid of our jail facilities. But he's been with the city for many years, and also in that particular position. I'm not quite sure when he actually came over full-time to assist Lisa, unless Jim has that.
Can you have that information?
Jim?
Through the chair, he came over in 2024. I'm not sure exactly.
All right, because the follow-up question, and I know it's just one person, but I didn't even think about looking at this in the book, is that you're only budgeted for one employee, but you've got two. So the question is, where did you get the additional dollars when he moved over in 2024?
It's budgeted to last year.
And in the book, it says it's budgeted for one. You've got two employees. So at what point did you need to come back and ask for additional funding for an additional employee?
To the chair of the councilperson, this is supposed to be to last year budget.
Mr. Gentile to the director, Mr. Chairman to the director and to Mr. Gentile. You know that this budget book for Cleveland City Council is basically our Bible for the whole year. What is in here is what we take as the word, right? So you can't come to the table and say, well, it says one in the book, but it was really this, because somebody's misleading somebody. And the way it looks on paper is that you're trying to mislead us. I understand that this is just one employee. But now I've got to go back in the book, and I've got to go through every single department now, because we had heard prior to this that these numbers in the book, when it comes to staffing, were not right. And this book has to be right, because it's our job to make sure that every single penny is accounted for, and that every single penny that goes out the door goes for the betterment of the people of the city of Cleveland. Not greater Cleveland, but Cleveland, okay? And you can't come to the table and tell us that you've got one written down in the book, but you got 2 employees, but it was just supposed to say 2. That doesn't cut it on this side of the table.
So through the
Go ahead.
chair to the councilman, I believe there's a typo that will need a green sheet.
Well, and that's what I'm talking about, Director. This is how many times now in the last 2 days that we've had the green sheet because there's a typo. There should be no typos. I understand by the time that the book is printed and
So-
you get it to us, I understand green sheets because we're moving a couple of things around. But I've never heard so many green, and I've been here a while, right? And I've never seen so many green. Every single department is coming up with the green sheet now. And this is just unacceptable.
Through the chair to the councilman, just want to point out that 2 of the divisions that had green sheets were related to a last-minute switch of 2 personnel between fire and police. So that was the same item, and that was something that was introduced.
Yeah, but I understand switching, because you're going through the books at the last minute, you're switching. That one made perfect sense. This one doesn't. You've got 1 employee budgeted for, but you've got 2 employees without asking for the additional dollars for the employee.
Through the chair, the council person, this is one of the challenges. Last year, we didn't have these sheets, and I'm not trying to make excuses. This should be correct. It should be 2. I agree with you. We'll go back through this and make sure that
So-
when we put the sheets back in this year, that we did have.
Well,
correct
Mr.
budget.
Chairman, to the director, I sat through budget hearings under the Jackson administration, and now I've sat through budget hearings under the Bibb administration. And I'm going to tell you, the way the book was done under the Jackson administration was the right way to do it. You gave us titles, you gave us employees, you gave us everything that we needed to know. The Bibb administration comes in and tries to get cute and do it, and this is what we're ending up with. Now you're ending up with you guys with egg on your face in front of us because somebody wants to be cute over there and make it look like or have the appearance of trying to hide something. This is just 1 employee. I don't know how many more there are throughout the whole book. Put the book back to the way it was prior to you guys getting here.
Okay. So,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
on page 248, so under project coordinator, for budget 2024, it should be 1, correct? For 20?
Yeah, to the chair, should be 2.
It'd be 2.
Yeah, it should be 2. and it's
Then
been-
number of employees December 2024 should be 2. Budgeted 2025 should be 2.
Correct.
Okay, then again, under that should be, for total, full-time should be 2, 2, and 2. Is that what you're telling us?
To the chair, that's correct.
Okay. So I don't need a green sheet, I can write it in here, but just so we know what it is. Okay. Okay. Is there anything else that is incorrect besides this page?
To the chair, we're not aware of anything else.
Okay. Councilman Casey, anything else?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
If I can?
Yes, Director.
I have with me here the budget from 2023. It was 2 employees. Again, it was just,
Okay.
it's just, because I want to make it clear that we're not trying to hide
Okay.
employees. It's just that, again, it was a mistake, and we certainly understand, Councilman Casey, that, certainly understand your point
you.
and so forth, but
Okay,
I just want to put that on the
Councilman
record.
Harsh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and apologies if I missed this, but through the chair to the director or chief, whoever wants to answer, of the 6,532 inmates in 2024, I know it's $99 a night or $99 a day or whatever. How many nights or days did we have So those 6,532 people spent how many days with the county?
Do we know what that equates to?
How many days, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
through the chair, how many days they were incarcerated?
Correct.
Or before they, well. that
Incarceration
information-
days.
Yeah, we can get that information for you. We don't have that in front of us, but
Is
we can
it-
get that information for you.
On that point, is
Yeah.
it right there, 25,320?
Okay, is that the per diem for 2024 on page 246? Is that the number I'm looking for?
Looks like it's item
Okay.
4 in there.
Okay.
Is that correct?
To the chair, that's correct.
Okay.
Okay, so that's roughly 253, I'm sorry, $2.5 million at $99 a day, right? 25,320, right, times 99, 2.5 million, 6,000, okay. And so that is the amount out of the budgeted 3 million on page 247 that was spent, right? 2.5 million was spent. Of the 3 million in the 2024 unaudited.
Who wants to answer that? Who can?
To the chair, the council person, we encumbered that amount of money, so it's a budgetary expense of
Right.
$3 million.
I'm just trying to do the math because this is the budget. If the per day cost goes up, is the budgeted amount going to cover the increase? And so if we go from, I think the mayor proposed 140 something. I'm going to say 146 until somebody can give me more accurate numbers. And we go up to 3.6 million, which is 696,000 more than we have budgeted. So just to be clear, if the cost of the daily incarceration rate goes up, it will go above our budgeted amount.
Through the chair to the councilman, that definitely has the potential to do that. We budgeted for the $99.
We budgeted for $99 for the year. Right. Okay. Okay. That's all I'm trying to establish. Thank you for pointing
Thank-
that out, Chair, Mr.
Th-
Councilman Casey.
Thank
Appreciate
you, Councilman. Councilman's life.
Thank you. Just hear it once again through the chair. The $750,000 in medical services, was it said that's only for pre-booking medical services?
Through the chair, that's correct. Also, the $750,000 would reflect any potential increases in medical costs in general.
Okay, so if someone is at the county jail and requires medical services after having been booked, is that charged against this line item, or is that encompassed within the $99 a day per diem?
Through the chair, through Councilman's life, once they're booked into the system, that medical charge goes to the county. I'm not quite sure if it's all within, well, it has to be within the $99. Once they're booked in the system, because we, the Division of Police, we take, for the most part, anyone that's having any type of medical issues or non-medical issues to the hospital before. It's where the $750,000 is budgeted for. But after they're booked into the system, the medical expenses are on the county.
Okay, this is could be said now or later, but can we get a number of Cleveland EMS runs from the county jail to, I would assume, Metro Health?
Through the chair, we can get you the information.
Okay, and I'll be interested in how that is subsequently billed back, I guess, to us and the county. And I have some questions and concerns I've heard about how the relationship between the county and Metro Health and in jail services, and or if Cleveland EMS is basically being used to cart people to Metro Health when there's a cheaper alternative, but that's maybe not the right conversation for right now. My understanding and from having followed this in the news is that the county, frankly, who signed this agreement, so I don't understand why they're being cynical to the city of Cleveland about it, is proposing a much higher per diem rate, something to the tune of about $175 a day, which from the data I've seen is astronomically higher than the cost per diem statewide. Are you able to share, so to Councilman Harsh's point, if there were some contract negotiation that the $99 were to inflate at any rate, are we able to speculate here and now of what the city's counter proposal is and what sort of a budgetary amendment would look like?
Who can answer that?
Through the chair to the councilman, I'm not aware of a solid figure and completed contract negotiations, so I'm not sure what exactly that number would be because nothing's been finalized.
Yeah.
Okay. Would it be fair, the historic data, so the let's say the 25,320 inmate days that we approved for payment per diem, would the county agree with that number, or does the part of the controversy lie within a discrepancies in data?
So through the chair to the councilman, I'm not aware of any issue or concerns raised with the data. And to all extents, to my awareness, it's all, the same across the county and with us.
Okay. And my final question, if I were arrested by Metro Parks Police at Edgewater, am I a Cleveland inmate or am I a Metro Parks inmate?
Don't get arrested, I hope, but I mean, that's besides the point.
That's my answer.
What are you
No
doing
fun.
down there
No
at the
fun.
beach? That's
Yeah.
what I'm wondering. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
I know. Okay.
Well, with the question being that I mean, I think that at some point, Councilman Plensik, I do think we need to have a larger conversation about this. I'm going to call it controversy at the table, and because there are so many, there's the Cleveland Clinic, there's UH, trying to understand like to what degree is the conversation a disagreement in the per diem rate, and on top of that, are there differences in how the data are interpreted and whether someone is or is not a Cleveland inmate that we would be needing to pay for.
Whatever you can provide to us, we'd appreciate that. Okay?
To the chair, we'll get that answer for you.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions of House of Corrections? If not, we are moving on. Staff?
52, Department of Justice, Chief Dornette Drummond. Page 253, 2024 unaudited salaries and wages, $1,060,650. 2025 budgeted, $957,562.
Okay.
Page 254, 2024 unaudited total expenditures, $3,187,744. 2025 budgeted, $5,519,879. Number of employees, December 2024, 7. 2025 budgeted, 8. Chair.
Thank you. Director, you care to comment before we ask questions at all? Director, Finance Director, Safety Director?
To the chair, I have no
Okay.
comments.
On page 253, under contractual, other contractual, and the contractual services, a big jump there. Can you explain that one to us?
Through the chair, that other contractual is the money that we pay to the monitor.
The federal monitor. So the 2.636, that's what we've paid to the monitor and all the other folks associated with the monitor?
So
Through
to the chair, 2.5 million was paid to the monitor, or is budgeted for the monitor, and 160,000 for advertising.
Advertising for what? $160,000 for advertising for what?
Through to the chair, it's for police hiring. So this is a place that they're going to advertise to hire police officers.
Wouldn't that be a part of the safety budget, of the CPD budget?
To the chair, they also have advertising here to advertise for police officers.
Okay, so I'm going to request of you, show me what they're advertising. Provide to us what they're advertising. I want to see what they advertise for that, for $160,000. Right.
Yeah, it's just
What?
through the chair. I guess it was part of the dissent decree.
No. Okay, but again, we have a right to ask.
Sure. No.
What 160,000 is being spent on if it's for advertising.
Sure.
Okay,
We'll get you that.
on page 254, under maintenance contracts, again, a significant jump. What is attributing to that?
Through the chair, the 887,000 is for Intergraph, Tyler Technologies, and they also have a new contract with Benchmark.
And what is that for?
It's for analytics.
For analytics.
To the chair, that's correct.
This is again for the DOJ. I mean, for the monitor. I mean, I'm not clear.
This is for the analytics of yes, when they conduct their analysis of the data from the Division of Police.
So this is then on top of the 2.6. I see somebody shaking their head yes, another one's, who's on first there? Tell me.
To the chair, yes, this is additional. This is a software, I think, to do analytics for the police that they have to send to the, as part of the consent decree, they have to give to the monitor. So I think this is a tool they're using to monitor the statistics.
Okay. At your convenience, give us an example. Again, it doesn't have to be today, but give us an example of what that looks like.
Okay.
Because that's, okay, I was under the impression that what we were paying the monitor, everything was included in that of what they had to do, what they had to retrieve. So now what I'm seeing, there's another 887,000 on top of the 2.6 million. Okay, we want clarification on that. Okay, questions of the committee to the directors of both public safety and to Councilman Casey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, to the director, who's the special assistant to the mayor for the DOJ?
Through the chair to the councilman, it's Jennifer Meyer, the internal affairs superintendent.
Does she does she work? Where does she work out of? Does she work in the mayor's office, or where does she?
No, through the chair, she works in the Division of Police.
Division of Police. Okay, thank you, Councilman Casey.
And then, Mr. Chairman, to the director, why do we need 1 lieutenant, 2 sergeants, 2 patrol officers to be assigned to the DOJ?
Can somebody tell us that? Explain that one to us.
To the chair, we no longer have a captain that's assigned. I know it's part of what you're seeing.
I didn't say captain. I said lieutenant,
I'm sorry,
sergeant,
I
and 2
apologize.
patrol
That's
officers.
It's a lieutenant that's in charge of the crisis team, and we have a sergeant. We're supposed to have 2 sergeants as well assigned for our crisis response teams.
Are they the regular police officers? Why are they under the DOJ budget, or why are they assigned to the consent decree?
This is part of the requirements of the consent decree that we have initially. That's why you had the captain of police there. Went from a captain of police down to a lieutenant of police that's in charge of the crisis response team.
So when the DOJ is screaming that we don't have enough police officers, we can say we can find 5 more, taking them away from you guys. It makes no sense why we have any uniformed police officers assigned to the DOJ. None whatsoever. Why the increase, Mr. Chairman, to the director, under other contractual? We went from 1.1 million in 2022 to 728,000 in 2023 to 1.7, now to 2.6 million. If I heard correctly, that is for the cost of the monitors who sit at these meetings and do nothing and just charge the city either $250 or $750 an hour or $600 with the discount, correct? That's the money that we're coming at.
Yeah. Outside of the 160,000 for advertising that's in this line, the rest is for the monitoring.
So,
team.
Mr. Chairman, to the director, has Judge Oliver already okayed this budget?
Through the chair, I believe so, but I will double check for sure, and we'll get you a final.
Do you know? You don't know? Okay. So we don't know that. So what happens if Cleveland City Council decides that instead of 2.636 million, we cannot afford that for the monitors, and we only decide to budget $1 million? What happens if what we budget in the city, we pass under ordinance, does the judge or the monitors have the authority to say, I'm just going to use round numbers, no, Cleveland City Council and the mayor's office, you can't just give us 1 million, you need to give us 3 million? Is that a possibility?
Who can answer that?
Through the
Or
chair, I believe-
speculate?
Yeah, through the chair to Councilman Casey, I believe that's something that would have to be decided, not necessarily decided in the courts, but I believe that's something we would have to go to federal court in front of Judge Oliver to discuss.
This is taxation without representation. Mr. Chairman, to the director, I've heard that the federal monitors, who, oh, by the way, are more than 6 months behind in billing the city for work that they have done, are asking the city to put their $5.5 million into escrow. Has the city ever done such a thing where we take a chunk of change and put it into escrow in order for some reason I'm thinking we're not going to pay them?
Through the chair of the council person, not to my knowledge. So generally speaking, we don't get that type of order. That is something that law is dealing with right now, whether we have to do that or not.
Okay.
And they'll be going to court to see Judge Oliver to determine whether we have to put this money up front with the courts, so when the bills come in, the courts would release the money to the monitor.
Without oversight from the city, probably. If it's just sitting in federal court, they'll just submit their bills to the federal court, and the federal court will just pay them without oversight from the city. That's what this is about. It's about them wanting to leave a $2 tip in a hotel and charge the city. This is about them wanting to write a sympathy letter for $115 and not have any oversight from the city. This DOJ thing, and as we see, since 2022, have doubled their ask, doubled the budget.
Yeah.
And there's nothing we can do about it.
Well, in 1 year, 2.3 million, they've increased their budget.
This year, it's 2.4.
Yeah.
2.4 million
I was
from
off
last year to this
100,000.
year.
Yeah.
When they did, when in 2022 they had a total budget of 2.7,
Yeah.
and we're not getting anything out of it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah. We have asked, just for the committee's understanding, we have asked through budget requests since the DOJ, the federal monitor has been here, what are the overall costs? We have asked for that figure. So we have not received that yet, but we have asked for what that number is.
And Mr. Chairman, I have another request
Yes.
on that point.
Yes.
Since 2015, we would like a list of every single person who has charged us money acting in the role of a monitor and how much they've made since 2015.
Okay, we asked for that for last year.
And we didn't
but-
get it.
But we haven't gotten that yet, but we'll ask for your additional request through staff of who was paid. We had asked for the dollar amount, who the individual was, the dollar amount, and the hours billed, and the dollar amount per billing.
You're going
hourly
to
rate.
fall over, Mr. Chairman, when
hourly
you
rate.
see that people become millionaires off the city of Cleveland
Yeah.
charging us the outrageous amount of money that they have to do absolutely nothing. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I have other questions of the Department of Justice.
Councilman.
You have another question?
Oh, this side.
Oh, excuse me.
I'll just,
Councilman
and this
Slight,
is this
excuse
is
me.
really for the administration does not need to respond to this. I'll say that in addition to Councilman Casey's frustrations, I recall the monitor being at the table and being very emphatic that they've saved us money and that they haven't expended their budget, which on one hand I can appreciate. However, last year, per the unaudited numbers, they didn't spend $1.5 million of what we budgeted for them. And the prior year was nearly $1 million, and before that it was $1.2 million. So this is a message, if anyone wants to convey it to the monitor, that I can't be appreciative that people aren't spending the budget when that's essentially equivalent to what we give to the Department of Aging. These are dollars that are being parked and not being spent that could be going to other things that are actually supplemental and complementary to the exact thing that they are charging us with completing. So it's not acceptable to me to inflate the budget and make those dollars unavailable for things that could prove more beneficial to the residents of the city of Cleveland.
Thank you, Councilman. Okay, without any further questions, yes, Ms. House Jones.
Thank you. Through the chair, to the team, can you explain what does the uniformed personnel do?
Director, the uniformed personnel assigned to this on page 254, what do they do?
To my uniform officers, the sworn members of the Division of Police.
Yes.
The lieutenant is in charge of the crisis response, co-response team. He coordinates their schedule and work with the licensed clinicians for the scheduling of those particular officers. Also attend meetings with the Adams Board and Frontline Services and coordinate services with them as well.
So just a clarification, uniformed personnel, it says it's 2 people? So it's 2 people that do this? Because I'm trying to figure out, so it's 2 people. I'm just trying to figure this out.
Yeah,
It says it's, okay, well, maybe it's 4. Okay.
yeah, we have
Help me. Okay, but
for a total of for the administrators and officials, it's special assistants, which is not a uniformed person. You have the lieutenant of police and 2 sergeants for a total of 4, but 3 uniformed personnel. That's the lieutenant and 2 sergeants.
Okay. So it's 2 uniform.
To the chair, to the council member, it's 3 uniformed members
Okay, and that made up of who?
made up of 2 sergeants and 1 lieutenant.
Plus you have
Okay,
2 patrol officers.
okay, I'm just trying to, because it said administrators and officials on here.
Right.
Special assistant to the mayor is who?
That is Jennifer Meyer. She is the superintendent of internal affairs.
And then the lieutenant and the sergeant, 2 sergeants, what do they do?
The sergeants are part of the co-responders unit.
So why are they in this budget?
It's part of the requirements from the consent decree.
To be a part of the Department Justice budget?
That's correct. Yes,
According
ma'am.
to what paragraph is that?
I would have to look up the paragraph. I don't know what the paragraph.
If you all could, somebody could provide clarification on the paragraph of that requirement, and then the 2 patrol officers, what do they do?
I'll have to look that up. I don't know off the top of my head. I don't want to give you a response to that's not accurate. So I'll find out exactly what the 2 patrol officers are
And
assigned
what is the
to.
relation and connection to this Department of Justice? So maybe if we, probably clarification is understanding what paragraph that this is fulfilling.
Sure, I can get to that information.
The paragraph and then what the officers do.
Sure.
Thank you.
One final question.
There's, okay, yes.
Would legislative authority be needed to place money into escrow?
I can't answer that since it's in, they have made their appeal to the federal judge. I would have to get an opinion. We'd have to get an opinion from the law director, whether or not that would ultimately have to come back to us. I'm not aware, I was sitting here when the question was put to Mr. Gentile. I'm not aware myself that we've ever put money in escrow. I cannot recall if we've ever done that.
And then okay.
Yeah, okay.
And then just clarification for the retirement, the PERS system is 14% and OPNF pension system is 19% here. 19 and a half. 19 and a half.
19 and a half.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, without any further ado, we're going to move on. Madam Clerk.
Page 249, Public Safety Inspector General. Inspector General.
249.
Page 250, 2024 unaudited salaries and wages, $2,596. 2025 budgeted, $169,506. 2024 unaudited total expenditures, $2,997. 2025 budgeted, $241,982. Page 251, number of employees December 2024, 1. Budgeted 2025, 2. Chair.
Okay. And I forgot something, because I'm looking, I've got so many responses here, notes. Just based on the Department of Justice, what we have spent to date on the Department of Justice is $25,996,636.58. Just on the Department of Justice, $25 million. Okay. Proceed. Directors.
To the chair, no comments. We're open for questions.
Okay. We have the new Inspector General here at the table. Would you care to introduce yourself?
Okay. Everyone can hear me?
Yes.
Good afternoon. Yes, good afternoon.
Yep.
Shailene Agarwal, for those who I have not met yet. I am the new Public Safety Inspector General here for the City of Cleveland. And I've been here since about mid-December. And I'll give a tiny spiel to what I did previously at the last Public Safety Committee meeting. The Inspector General's office is here, as other IG offices are, acting as an oversight entity in the public safety systems to ensure that we are looking for waste, fraud, abuse, potentially launching investigations, audits, evaluations, reviews. And this is to ensure that our systems that are here to serve the public are working effectively and efficiently, and that they are collaborating as necessary in order to weed out any processes that are not streamlined that should be. I'm sure there is more. I'm sorry, I'm a little under the weather. But we're different from the previous iteration of this office. It was a police inspector general. That is very different. That is an internal system into a division of police similar to internal affairs. We are an external agency. So, and an office of inspector general like the one here does not operate within the internal of the police department or fire, EMS, all of those agencies that exist under public safety department. We operate separately.
So then, who do you report to?
So per the settlement agreement, the consent decree, our office is based out of the mayor's office, but I, as the IG, report to Director Drummond.
Okay. Okay. Since you started when?
December 16th of 24.
So it's you're the new lady on the block.
Correct.
And there really isn't much to discuss here, as I can see within the budget, since it's your relatively new operation. You have a total of 2 set aside for this budget. So I don't have any questions. Questions of the committee? Yes, Ms. Jones.
Thank you. Through the chair to the team here, can you, because the team is new, what is the goal this year? Seeing this is a new department, and how is that aligned with the budget? Because it's 2 people. So what's going to be the work?
Okay. Go ahead.
Through the chair to the council member. So the goal of this office, one, will always be to do the work of an inspector general and to be a place of a true north in terms of how standards are held, procedures and processes are followed, and that we are also a baseline for folks to come when there is an issue that is approaching. We can be proactive or reactionary. That, even though I'm currently a team of 1, will happen. However, and to make sure that we can execute the work appropriately, rebuilding the office that has laid dormant for a period of time. And it was, again, like I said before, a police inspector general. So those standards that are followed, the work that is conducted looks differently than what we are doing now, also with the expansion of authority. So what was just a Cleveland Division of Police and OPS oversight now also includes those entities that fall under the Department of Public Safety, so the ones that you're hearing from today. So my focus has been to understand, learn, dive deeply into the oversight landscape, how we can partner with those folks in oversight that are already here, so we're not having duplicative work, to rebuild our office policies, procedures, so that they strictly adhere to Green Book, which is the set of standards that an inspector's general office will follow. And that we are also building internal manuals to bring on staff who cannot hit the ground running, I would never say that, but to be in a light jog so we can start that work and bring people on board so that our capacity meets expectation and that this office maintains the integrity and reputation of almost every IG office that you'll find, not across the country, but across the world, as one that has of credibility within its political landscape, with community stakeholders, one of, I will not say neutrality, but objectivity, and that we will get to the bottom of any inquiries that come our way. Okay. So building capacity, infrastructure, making sure it is solid, while also still conducting the work that needs to be done.
Thank you.
So, through the chair, to the a new Inspector General here, with the paragraphs 250 through 256, this is a lot of work. That's what I'm trying to understand. This is a lot. I mean, you do not have the capacity to do this, right? And so I am, if we are coming through a place, because how long has it been since we had a version of Inspector General?
Through the chair to Councilwoman House Jones, it's been a couple years that the position's laid vacant.
A couple meaning?
Through the chair to the councilwoman, my records show January of 2021.
So they definitely
4 years.
So 4 years.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So I'm really just trying to get an understanding. So when you reviewing city policies and practices, auto compliance, conduct investigations, analyze trends, develop specific recommendations, analyze investigations, collect and analyze all sustained findings, make reports and recommendations. Where are we starting? And based on this budget, like what, through the chair to the team, has a plan been established? Because we have a department division that's been dormant for 4 years, we can't do all of this. And so really thinking through what's the plan for this year, for the next 10 months? And how is that connected to this this investment in our budget?
Sure. I'm going to start off, and I'm going to start off to the chair, to council member. I'm going to start off, and I'll let Shailene kind of go in there, because right now it's a matter of building capacity. First and foremost, she is office of one. There's through the budget, there's one additional employee, and I think it's an auditor that the IG will be hiring this year, hopefully sooner than later, to assist her. And again, first is building capacity. That's the first and foremost, making sure she has the support she needs to independently, and I stress that word, independently, conduct her duties and responsibilities for oversight of not only the Division of Police, but also the other divisions under public safety. So that's my goal, to help her build capacity so she can do her job effectively.
Thank you. Through the chair to the council member. So to break this down, I think I'll say this. We say building capacity quite a bit, and it can be vague. So I want to be specific in building capacity. Capacity is not just myself, I am here hiring on someone else. It is also the capacity of the office to work rigorously with credibility. So it is the rebuilding and review of the policies and procedures that stood previously and correcting them to make sure that they are following the standards as they should be. Capacity buildings also means myself as the IG getting to know the teams and the heads of the other agencies within the landscape of police accountability and oversight. This also means meeting so many people within our IT department just to build things in SharePoint, Teams. Where can I receive confidential documents to make sure that they are safe? That's capacity. So these are the day-to-day operations that happen look a lot like relationship building, asking questions. What can I do? What's available to me based on the budget, and working there and planning for the future. So that's capacity, as well as there are other folks within the administration who are new, who are in the community and the media, and something that an IG's office should always have is a pulse to the community and a relationship. We are only as strong as the community that we serve in terms of their knowledge. So learning their experiences, how these systems are working for them, and us as the people that have that education, that experience, hearing that and saying, this actually speaks to an HR issue, this speaks to a recruitment issue, and then tackling that. So that's part of also building capacity. I think to your first question, and part of it was, does this budget speak to that? Not necessarily. So this budget and the way it's laid out in terms of the number of full-time employees that are here would speak to the original police inspector general and what they were doing with the very narrowly tailored aspect of just reviewing the department. With that and OPS and the other agencies, you would have to, at full capacity of all the expectations that we would have and the potential for the consent decree to no longer be with us, where you do have the infrastructure present now to carry on that work, you would need to fulfill the budget for all 3 to 4 full-time personnel and then quadruple that. That would be the appropriate amount for an office of an inspector's general. But we are still building, so there is wiggle room for us to make sure that we are coming correct to the table, as I was saying. Do I wish, and the director wish we had some? Yes, more would be great for every agency and department. I think if that is available, of course, we will take it. But this is why we are utilizing other departments, and they are partnering with my office as best as everyone can to help us and support where we might have those gaps where we need them. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
I'm so sorry. Could I ask?
Sure.
This keeps happening to you. I just, I apologize. It's hard to see me at the end of the table. Hi, I'm Councilwoman Moorer. Could you just articulate could you just give us like the elevator pitch? You get on an elevator with me in the basement of City Hall. We're riding up to the second floor, and I say, how does your role differ from OPS, CPC, and the Civilian Police Review Board? What do you say in the elevator through the chair?
Through the chair, that's a great question. I answer this all the time.
I'm sure you do.
Okay, so OPS, CPC, OIG. So if I can, the elevator pitch I always give is like, what do you do? So the best example that I always give folks is that, say there's an issue within the community, a police officer was pursuing a suspect. And in the course of that pursuit, there was a use of force to, apprehend that person and bring them in. And there was a complaint, or it was just an egregious use of force. So a body like OPS, they're going to investigate that individual officer for potential misconduct to see if something did happen. That's OPS. CPC is going to be the voice of the community at the table who might share an additional experiences, anecdotes, gathering information from the community, what the recommendations the community has to potentially fix this challenge, this issue, and bring it to the table for everyone to consider. An OIG, I'm going to look at the systemic issue. What was the system, the procedure, the process in place that potentially allowed this situation to occur? Can we find a root cause, not just an individual misconduct, which does happen, and someone just completely violated policy that was well effectuated and in place? But was there something larger there that we need to take a look at? Is there an inefficiency within the budget where we need to put more money here in training within that department? Is it something else entirely? Is it the field training officers when they're training in the field? Is there something that's not being said? Is it something larger that's cultural, which you can speak to? You partner with CPC, you partner with your city, with your division of police. That's what an OIG does. They are a watchdog. So they are both the protector and also making sure that those passersby that are coming through the gate are coming correctly. We do all those things.
Thank you. I wonder how much CPC or OPS would agree with that. I think that they have sometimes articulated their role as very similar to what you just laid out. And I've noticed, you have an incredible track. You've worked in OIG offices in Chicago, Seattle, Oakland, Portland. I hope I'm reading this right off of your, I'm reading this from the press release. In your experiences in those other cities, was there this same disaggregation between the offices of the Inspector General and essentially the complaint investigation for individual officers? Was that consistent in those cities you'd worked at, or is this a new setup for you here in Cleveland? Through the chair.
Through the chair, to council member. So not that every city is unique. There is many similarities. However, I also, let me say this, I hear the point of it looks like there's overlap, and there is. And there should be, because we should all be working in partnership. We are on the same team, ultimately for the same vision, to serve the people of Cleveland. So there are pieces where you have your primary lane and then the lanes in which we should kind of traverse those together. I can understand maybe the confusion or whether or not, like, who do I go for what situation? Who handles what? To make sure that those mission and values, they're clear and they're defined. And I'm not sure the other heads of those agencies how they would say, but to me there is a role where in other cities an inspectors general is the umbrella. And in this case, that's not how it's set up. It's the infrastructure that can make that difference. So in other places, you might have the inspector general who is overseeing that investigatory body.
Yes.
Who is overseeing that community body. Because an inspector's general is supposed to be an objective, standard holding body that is free from bias, conflict, and from political pressure. So that's how they stand. So usually in the place here, you have the Department of Public Safety, you would have the Office of the Inspectors General. So then you're working in tandem and you're working together. In this infrastructure, it can still work well. What it requires is a lot of communication and meeting frequently and having delineated roles and responsibilities that those agencies and the city has laid out here in your charter, separate from the consent decree. That's a temporary. So when you're permanent in your charter, whatever that is, having that laid out as well.
I really appreciate that. I mean, this isn't something that we're going to fix here today, but I would just really want to highlight that in your answer, what you've seen in other cities is that the OIG is the umbrella, and then these other organizations are underneath it. And what I think we've created here in Cleveland are just multiple silos to deal with the same types of questions. And obviously, we're all on the same page. Like, these are questions we need to answer and need to address and need to tackle. And maybe there's an argument, maybe people have made it that the sort of overlapping organizations as sort of like, providing extra layers of protection. I think there might be an argument from the sort of taxpayer perspective that it's actually sort of confusing things and also duplicating efforts, that you're having to redo work that is subsequently going to OPS, which is subsequently going to CPC. We're not going to solve it here today. I'm happy to know you're here. You've worked out of offices that have impressive track records, and I'm interested to see what you do. But we've kind of been going back and forth on the structures of these roles multiple times, and I might just put out there that an Office of Inspector General should have some teeth to it, and you and one other person might not actually have the teeth, whereas we have money in place for other elements of this work, but we've kind of kept it away from you and kept it away from the independence that an OIG is supposed to have. So I'll leave my comments there, but just really want to highlight that this is maybe an unusual way to tackle this problem as a city.
Thank you. Any other questions of the Office of Inspector General? Okay. Thank you very much. And
Thank you.
welcome aboard. Okay. Okay, staff, where are we at?
Page 236, Division of Emergency Medical Services. Commissioner
236.
Commissioner Orlando Wheeler. Page 237, 2024 unaudited salaries and wages, $24,252,766. 2025 budgeted $24,503,893. Page 239, 2024 unaudited total expenditures, $36,571,320. 2025 budgeted $39,062,922.
Okay.
Page 240, number of employees December 2024, 278. Budgeted 2025, 304. Chair.
Thank you. Thank you. Directors?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Is there anybody here from EMS?
Yes, Chair. Where's Assistant Commissioner Chapin is here.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, on page 237,
Mr. Chair, if I could point
go ahead.
out, I'm sorry, there is a green sheet on this.
where is that one?
So it should be page 240. And
240.
it's a change in emergency medical technician trainees. We had originally had 10 in there, and it should have been 35.
Okay, wait a minute. Let me see what I got here. Okay, 239,
Page 240,
240.
you'll see the numbers highlighted. That 35 in the original document was 10, which was incorrect, so we changed it to 35.
Okay, wait a minute. Let me look. Okay.
The line item for emergency medical technician trainees.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay, so on page, jump right into this. On page 237, under injury pay, there has been a big jump there. Explain that one to us. In 2024, and then in 2025, nothing. Explain that to us.
Injury pay was 101, now 72.
Through the chair, that's pay, like if someone's gets an EMS and they're out and we have to pay them. So we don't normally budget that. And if it happens, you'll see in the last several years, it was 18,000, 28,000, 101,000. That kind of offsets the full-time permanent. So they won't get paid out of full-time permanent, we'd pay them injury pay. If they're injured on the job.
Is that the way it is handled in fire and police? I'm just wondering, how is that handled?
To the chair, yes.
It's handled the same way? So we pay that, that's what, for medical, for the actual medical care? What is it? Explain it.
To the chair, that's actually salary to the employee that's injured during the job.
Okay,
So-
it's their salary.
Right.
Okay, I got you. Okay, under bonus incentive, explain that, the 4.9 in 2024. 4.9 million.
It's overtime.
That's excuse me. See, I'm looking at the wrong one. Overtime. Okay. So you're presenting us that there's going to be a substantial decrease in overtime, and yet on page 240, you're not upping the number of officers, number of EMTs and paramedics. So I need to understand, this has been a concern that's been expressed to us by the care union as it pertains to, they believe there needs to be additional folks in the academy, in a paramedic trainee classification. Who can address that to us? They don't believe we're going to be able to maintain. They don't believe you're going to be able to decrease overtime in light of the positions that they believe need to be filled. So who wants to comment on that?
Yeah. To the chair, currently they have, I think, 16 or 17 vacancies right now. Trainee-wise, the green sheet we gave you that's highlighted has 35 trainees for 2025. So what we're hoping to do is if they fill the 17, we get these trainees and we can get them through. That would be an additional amount of 35 people.
Okay, but I'm confused. If you have 17 vacancies,
Right.
Are they coming out of the trainees, or where are they coming from? Because then, would you care to comment, Assistant Commissioner? Who can comment?
So currently, we have 13 trainees, individuals who went through the EMT Academy and also other EMTs and paramedics that we brought on. That has our current budgeted number, our current staffing number at 294. We have another class of paramedics who are ready to start once this class is complete, and there are 9 of those individuals. So that will take our number up to a total of 303 employees. The other vacancy is from an emergency medical dispatcher position, which we will be looking to fill in the near future.
And as a result of that, how many units would we have running?
Our goal is always 23 during the day and 19 at night.
And you believe with what is being presented to us, 35 emergency medical technician trainees, you believe that you'll be able to staff those units?
Yes, I believe so.
And a decrease in overtime at the same time?
Yes.
You better hope you're right.
Well, if I am not right, we will reevaluate and come back to you with more.
Because that will be an enjoyable meeting. I can assure you of that. So on charges, on page 239, charges for services. Actual for 2023, 8.5, unaudited 4.0, anticipated 2025 budget 16 million. Who would care to comment on that one?
To the chair, the 16 million is for the new contract that we have with QMC. And to date, they've currently collected about 4.2 million.
Okay, but pre-budget request, accounts receivable for 2022 was $14,362,241. For 2023, $8,515,463. 2024, $3,953,054. So there's a substantial amount of money accounts receivable. What are you doing to collect the money that is owed us?
To the chair, all those accounts have been turned over to the new firm. We turned them over late last year, early this year. Again, so far the collections through February 18th this year which includes some of those back ones, is over 4.2 million, and that's not even 2 full months so far. So they're making a lot of headway with our old accounts.
Because that's about $26 million we're owed.
Through the chair, yep, that's right. So we're making some headway. Again, we're at 4.2 million through February 18th of this year. This will probably, as they get their feet under them, because they just started this like in January.
Yeah.
Our first payment for them was in January. So as they kind of get all these accounts, bill all these accounts, we hope to have a really good year. Budgeted 16. Hopefully it comes in higher than 16. But we're pretty confident based on so far the early returns that we will hit 16 and very likely even go higher than that.
Yeah, to the chair, just to put it into perspective, we've already collected more using QMC than we did all of last year.
Yeah, because you didn't staff it adequately. You haven't staffed it adequately for God knows how many years. Council's complained about this repeatedly. You didn't. It was a toxic work environment down there. You had good quality people, many of them Cleveland residents, who were not supported. And what happened to the employees that were down there? Where did they go?
To the chair, the 3 that remained, there was only 3 that remained when the company took over that were actually employed. 1 went to community development as a job. 2 of them actually remained in license and assessments. They chose, they were given some options. They chose to stay in license and assessments and do different billing activity for Division of License and Assessment.
And 1 came up here to City Council who's a very effective, very competent employee. Yeah. And so again,
she left
you guys created this situation. Council did not. We reminded you repeatedly at each budget for God knows how long that you did not have adequate staffing. It was a toxic work environment down there. And now, again, I tell you, we're going to be watching this like white on rice as it pertains to you wanted this outside contractor, you got it. And I'm telling you, the fees, outstanding fees better be collected. That's all I got to tell you. Because we're not going to let this go. This was a great concern of us, the way, one of the things you're going to find, Director, because you're relatively new, Council takes great exception to how our employees are treated. I want to strike that again. We take great exception. And we expect our people to be treated fairly and properly, and we expect there to be transparency. And there was not transparency or accountability down there. I can tell you that for a fact. Those women came up and spoke to me personally, talked to me about the environment that they were working, came up and talked to the council president. So at the end of the day, we expect you wanted this outside contractor, you got them, and they better collect the money. They better collect the funds that are owed us. Because had you given those, had you hired the proper people, had you addressed the environment downstairs, those ladies who were all competent working down there would have done the job for us. There's no doubt about it in my mind. I can tell you that for a fact. So this is just a classic example to me of mismanagement, poor management. We paid a severe price for it. The employees paid a severe price for it, and we expect that to be corrected. On page 238, under safety equipment, substantial increase there, and under pharmaceutical supplies, can you explain that to us as well?
Through the chair, the safety equipment is for new hires and replacement of the ballistic vests, ANSI compliant safety vest, safety outer coats, chemical suits, and other safety equipment. The increase is to cover replacement cost of PAPRs required for chemical, biological, and emerging infectious diseases, replacement required following PERP complaint.
So are all EMTs, paramedics, do all of them frontline have the ballistic vests?
Chairman, yes, they do.
Is there any, so there's nobody missing the vests?
No.
Okay. As it pertains to additional equipment and supplies, is this going to provide to you what you need in EMS?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, there was a great increase this year. when she was talking about the personal protective equipment, because all of the personal protective equipment that was purchased during the Ebola outbreak and our response to that, and all of that stuff has expired and reached the shelf life. So we had to replace it all. And each individual has their own chemical vest and chemical suits, and then all of the ambulances have the PAPR systems, which she referred to.
I can understand medication expiring, but educate us as it pertains to equipment expiring.
So the chemical suits are specific material, and they only have certain shelf lives. I believe
Okay.
the shelf life on the equipment is 5 years,
Okay.
and we stretched it past that.
Okay. When equipment such as this is no longer feasible for our operation, what do we do with it?
So if it's unusable, we discard it. If it's still usable, we will reach out to MedWish, stuff,
Okay.
and organizations like that, and see if they can
Okay,
utilize it.
again, any equipment, I really appreciate what we worked out last time with equipment that we were able to free up in fire, and I believe might have been EMS as well, that we were able to provide. I believe we provided to Ukraine some of the equipment, and to other countries where they were deficient. So again, I want to make sure nothing gets thrown away. If it can be donated to some other agency, some other country, I want to make sure. I would hate to find out, I think all of us would hate to find out something's going in the garbage. If it can be reutilized some way, some capacity. So again, I want to stress that to the administration. My last question is the, let's see what do you have here? Tuition and registration fees under training and professional dues. Is that a result of that's been a big jump. What is that? Is that a result of the new trainees, or what's going on? On page 237.
To the chair, that's the paramedic training class certification that was now put into the EMS budget.
And so it would jump that much?
The city.
That-
Sorry, go ahead.
Councilman, that was put in by the previous safety director with the intention of providing full reimbursement for any paramedic students.
Okay, so, and that's something that we advocated, the council. So right now, we are providing the training for all paramedic training. Is that
Those who
correct?
want it through us, yes. We just graduated a class in end of last year of 15 individuals who are in the process of becoming certified or
So
functioning paramedics.
the individuals that receive the certified paramedic training, they know if they leave, they have to reimburse, correct?
Correct.
Okay, what period of time?
I don't have that information. I can get
Get that
for you.
to me. To my colleagues, this is something that we had lobbied for. In the past, the EMTs had to pay for their own paramedic training, and we felt that was just outrageous. We wanted that paid for by the city, and I'm glad to see that has been accomplished, and I want to make sure that line item is adequately funded. No city employee should have to pay for their own training. I could never figure that one out for the life of me, especially something as critical as EMS. Okay, questions of the administration? Yes, Mr. Slife.
Thank you. And to go straight into what you were just referring to, kind of the other end of the question, I'm happy to see that we spent $34,733 on tuition registration fees last year, but we budgeted well over that. Most of that money was left on the table. So if we're going to budget $320,000 this year, which I agree with, can you walk me through how we work to expend that? I don't want to find out that there's individuals unaware that there's a reimbursement program available. That's something that I'd want to see fully expended.
Who can?
Or we pay, now whether it's reimbursable or we pay it, I want to see that entire thing paid. Thank you for the clarification.
Did you hear that request? Okay. Repeat it again.
So can we get from the administration the raw number of individuals in 2024 who received tuition and registration fee support? And then could the department comment on how they advertise the availability of this to employees and prospective employees?
Anybody that's an EMT should know that, right? I mean, are they aware of that?
I believe so, sir.
Well,
As far as advertising to, I don't know if we have made that, like, advertised to those who don't already work for us. The ones who do work for us,
I think that the councilman raises a good point. That's a enhancement. If you want to become a member of the City of Cleveland's division of EMS, and the city's going to pay for your paramedic training, I think that's a real plus.
yes, and with our EMT training now, we do provide a path from somebody to civilian all the way to paramedic that will be of no cost to them.
Okay. Well, he's made a good suggestion and a request, and I would hope you would follow up on that. Councilman Slade?
Thank you, and because at risk of looking like a conspiracy theorist, we get the budget broken down, but really at the end of the day, we're approving above the line and below the line. So the intent of us budgeting $320,000 below the line is for it to go to this purpose, not for that money to be reallocated below the line for garage doors or something else. So I want us to be sure that that money is available and that it is not pragmatically, maliciously, it doesn't matter to me, being used for some other expense within the division. So I will say I was a strong advocate of increasing our EMS rates and making our EMS rates competitive with other jurisdictions, and I became comfortable with outsourcing our collections, not because I view EMS as a revenue generator by design, but because there were revenues that we were leaving on the table. So the fact that we budgeted last year $11 million for revenues and just got over $4 is frustrating to me. Is that because of delays in contracting, or could we get an explanation on why we didn't collect $6 million that we had anticipated last year during budget season?
Whoever can answer?
Yeah, to the chair of the councilperson. The staffing dwindled off over the years. So starting last year, I think we only had 4 or 5 employees that were there. Historically, we had 10, 12, 14. So we didn't have the manpower to actually bill it. Again, the reason that we looked at going outside is the other 10 biggest cities in the state of Ohio, not a single one of them self-collect. So we kind of looked at that. We called those folks. We did try to hire people over the years. We just weren't successful hiring people. We brought some in. They quit. They got different jobs. So we did not have that many people processing the bills. That's why we did not collect the amount that we budgeted initially.
Thank you. So if it was stated that year to date, our outside contractor has already collected $4.2 million, right?
That's correct.
So rough math, if we're a month and a half into the year, and it sounds like that's some catching up on collection, so it might be risky just to divide that by 1.5 and multiply that by 12, but that'd be $33 million. And so let's say $30 million just to be safe. I'm not advocating as much for increasing what we're budgeting for charges for service. But I will point out that my intent in increasing EMS rates was for that money to come back into EMS. I think that EMS is an app. If you look at the EMS workflow, what they do, their skills at saving lives in the city of Cleveland, I think that they're worth every dollar we invest in it and more. And I will say, I am one of the members of this body that is scratching my head wondering why the administration came a couple months ago advocating for a 316 head count, and there's now a 304 head count. So putting that all together, if we anticipate getting well over $16 million of revenue coming in I see no reason why we wouldn't want to put some of that money back in and go back to the 316 operational headcount. I will be making that recommendation during reconciliation. I believe that the money's there, if only by increasing the charges for service within this very budget, and I believe it's the right thing to do. So I'm happy to hear a response, but that's where I'm at.
Whoever cares to respond?
Yeah, through the chair, to the councilman, again, we budgeted this pretty cautiously because we wanted to make sure that we didn't over budget the revenue coming off of that lower number. So the part of this that they've collected is some of the backlog. Now, we're not sure what the total revenue is going to be. We're very confident it'll be 16. Hopefully, it's more based on what we've already experienced with the company. So far, we had a really good return from the company through the 18th of February.
Okay, so one final question. The $16 million charges for service projected revenue, does that include legacy accounts receivable, or is that only charges for service in budget year 2025?
Yeah, through the chair of the council person, that is what we anticipate in collecting. So some of that will be the historic accounts receivable. And remember, some of that accounts receivable is if it's self-pay, the collectability of self-pay accounts is very low. I mean, if Medicaid, Medicare, or a private insurance provider is not paying the bill, if an individual has to pay it, the collectability that we've seen over the years is not that high. But if we have an organization to charge, whether it's insurance or Medicare or Medicaid, we see we collect those. So some of those bills in our accounts receivable are not going to be collectible just because they're self-pay.
But those are going to be few in number.
I mean, the majority will be the insurance, Medicare, Medicaid.
Right.
Okay.
There's $27 million over the last 3 years accounts receivable. There's the problem.
Yeah, may we receive, to that point, an update on what is outstanding in accounts receivable, and if possible, breaking it out by what is self-pay and what is not?
Okay.
So that we can compare and contrast that with the $16 million.
So they gave us the figures for the last 3 years, 2022, 23, 24. If you could break that out based on Councilman Slice's request, I'd appreciate that.
To the chair, we'll do that.
Thank you. Councilman, anything else? Thank you. Councilman Casey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, Director Drummond, I noticed this in police, fire, and now EMS. Can you tell us what the difference between clothing allowance and clothing maintenance is?
Yes, to the Casey. Yes, contractually, you have a clothing allowance for each officer. That's a system where they can actually purchase uniforms to replace their worn-out uniform, an old uniform. And then there's also, again, contractually, a uniform maintenance, which is to maintain the uniform going forward, whether it's dry cleaning and other facets that may have to repair their uniform. So there's clothing allowance that they actually order, that they receive, but throughout the process, there's also a clothing maintenance contractually that we have to give the members in the divisions of fire, EMS, and
All right, and then
police. No,
do you want to say something?
Go ahead.
On page 238, maintenance miscellaneous equipment, and then maintenance of the building. I'm going to think that the miscellaneous equipment is stuff that's within the building, and then the building, that whopping 25,000. Again, we won't rehash this that we went over with police and fire, but 25,000 for maintenance of a building isn't going to get you anything. It may buy you rock salt for the sidewalk, but that's about it.
That's right.
Through the
wants to
chair,
comment on this?
the maintenance miscellaneous equipment is the striker cots that are in the EMS vehicles.
Say that, whoever wants to explain that to us?
The maintenance, the miscellaneous maintenance costs, through the councilman, through the chair, is the cots, the maintenance of the cots. It's lower than it has been in the past because a lot of the cots are brand new, so they're still under warranty.
So then, Mr. Chairman, to the director, what's the difference then between the miscellaneous equipment and the maintenance contract? Why would there be something broken out of your maintenance contract like that?
Who can explain that one?
The maintenance contracts through the chair, that's for Zoll equipment, medical priority dispatch, fire AEDs, EMS technology solutions, policy management software, and AVL for the vehicles.
And you can provide this in writing.
And then why do, Mr. Chairman, to the director, whomever, why do we separate the cots out from every other piece of equipment?
Who can explain that one? Go ahead.
I can. To the councilman through the chair, I believe that these costs are, the maintenance contract does have Stryker in there when we have a maintenance contract. But since these cots are all new and still under warranty, I believe those costs are like if the cots are damaged outside of the warranty. So we have to pay for an additional, if somebody accidentally crushes the cot from the dump of the truck coming down on the wheels or something odd that's not covered under warranty.
But Mr. Chairman, to the director, didn't you just say that all the strikers were new? So they should all be under contract, correct? Or under warranty?
Well, yeah, under warranty. What I'm saying is it's something like if it was our fault. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, but wouldn't you just replace that then with the maintenance contract? I just don't understand why you pull the
We
cots
don't have
out.
the maintenance contract if it's under warranty.
Okay, forget it. Thank you.
Okay.
To
Okay.
the chair, I just want to add one
Yes.
thing about building maintenance, and we're going to get these numbers. We've asked property management. So outside of what's in this budget, property management does go to the police districts. They go to the fire. They go to the EMS. We're going to get the dollar amount that they spent last year
That's what we want.
at those entities. So there is some maintenance done by property management at all those facilities.
Good.
We'll get the dollar amount for that. We're getting it from property management.
Thank you. That's what we want to see. Okay, Councilman Casey? Councilman House Jones?
Yes, thank you. So just going to the contractual services, can you all just go down just the line items on 238 to explain what all of those things are, please?
Who can, Director, Mr. Gentile? Under contractual services, page 238, the right-hand column.
Through the chair, the $50,000 in professional services is for biohazard waste pickup. The $1,000 is for court reporting fees for disciplinary hearings. The referee services.
Can I just, I'm
sorry.
interject. You said for what?
Court reporting fees for disciplinary hearings.
Yeah, to the chair, if I can explain that for all hearings conducted for public safety, whether police, EMS, fire, animal care control, everything's done through a court reporter.
Have to have a court report.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Keep going.
Okay. Under referee services, that's for anything for arbitration.
Okay.
Janitorial services, that's just services to clean the buildings.
Keep going.
Parking in city facilities, that would be any parking at Willard Garage. The property, no, there's no property rental. Other contractual, that's actually the advertising for EMS recruitment.
You skipped over medical services.
No. I don't have
If you got it for 2,000 in the book. I don't know. I can't even imagine what that would be.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to get
Yeah.
clarification.
Okay, you'll let us know,
Yeah,
because
we'll
they don't have it in theirs. We have it in ours.
No, it's in here. We just.
Oh, okay.
So while they're getting that, I got a, so the question around janitorial services, what's that for?
Janitorial services, the 23,000, what's it for? For EMS. Is that for your office?
Correct.
Okay.
No, explain. Where? What is that for?
That, to the councilman through the chair, that is for our headquarters janitorial services.
On
So-
Lakeside?
Correct. 1701 Lakes.
So through the chair to the team here, so it's a part-time, or is it your proportion to a janitorial person?
We, to the councilman through the chair, that we contract with a service that comes in.
Is that the only one? So is it the only entity providing custodial services at the building? Are you the sole funder of the contract for the,
Yes, we are.
okay. And, okay. And then, with the advertising budget, was it, so it was none of the money was spent in 2024, so there was no advertising done for EMS paramedic last year?
Who can respond to
Yeah,
that?
through the chair to the councilwoman, that's correct. Nothing was spent.
Okay. And the reason why I'm asking this question, because it's like this contractual service budget is literally the same if you look at multiple budget books from previous years, and the actual, what was actual asked for is the same, like for multiple years. And so that's what, it just piqued my interest. All right. Oh, and of course, going to, and this, through the chair to the team here, has EMS been a part of any of the conversations related to increase in retirement benefits for EMS workers?
Through the chair, the councilperson, EMS is under OPERS.
I know, but I'm asking because, again, through the chair, I know this is not a part of the OP and F, conversations. That is different. But EMS, when you look at frontline workers, I think it is in the realm of sometimes having very different occupational hazards, to the workforce. And when you think about many of the mental, emotional stresses that are put on people that are from being a dispatcher to being a paramedic, you would think that within the realm of frontliners that having the conversations or ensuring that people have good retirement benefits, that our EMS team members would be included as, because we're talking about what people need and ensuring people can retire with dignity. I was curious, was EMS included? And it probably was no, but that's just good to note, and making sure we can communicate that information to our delegation in the State House as we are talking about people being prepared in retirement, and as they are part of the PERS system.
Okay.
It's 14%, correct?
Yes.
All right.
Okay. Any other questions of the committee? If not, we're going to move on. Staff? What?
So one last thing.
Wait,
On the medical supplies, this, for the 2,000, this is a return to work. So if we have an employee that comes back from workers' comp or an injury, if we have to send a return to work, medical services is where we would charge that.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, thank you. Okay, move on, staff.
Page 127, Community Police Commission, Administrator Jason Goodrick. Page 128, 2024 unaudited salaries and wages, $427,361. 2025 budgeted, $647,766. Page 129, 2024 unaudited total expenditures, $1,888,334. 2025 budgeted, $2,268,480. Number of employees December 2024, 11. Budgeted 2025, 21. Chair.
Okay. On page 128, under tuition and registration fees, can you explain the increase there? Whoever can. Page 128, under tuition and registration fees. That would be page 128. under tuition and registration fees.
So to the chair, this is for training and travel for the National Association for Civilian Oversight of Law Enforcement, the conference for that.
Okay. On the page 129, the let me see what we got here. The budget has increased from unaudited to 25 budget, approximately $400,000. Who would care to comment on that?
So to the chair, this would partially be because of the head count being increased to 8 from 7.
You're talking staff-wise?
Yes,
Okay.
under full-time.
Yeah.
Full-time.
And
So on page 129, so let me look at that. So we have 11 board members in this budget. And we have, okay, we have 5 project coordinators. Okay. Who is who's the administrative managers? And who are the administrative managers? You want to identify your folks at the table here? Thank you.
To the chair, the budget book.
Identify yourself, so the viewing public.
Jason Goodrick, Administrator of the CPC.
Okay.
To the chair, if you look at the table on the PowerPoint, that is an accurate representation of our current staffing arrangement. So I think this was just a legacy print from something that the administration did in 2023.
We need a green page for 129?
This is the accuracy is always been here, and then the only thing that was added was the executive director and the assistant director of law. So the 5 positions between those 2 positions on the board have always existed at the CPC. 3 project coordinators, an office manager, an administrative manager, has always been the CPC's arrangement since the consent decree was in place. The law made it, when 115.5 was passed, it put an executive director there. And then over the past 2 years, council and law and the CPC have agreed we needed an assistant director of law as in-house counsel. And that is a split position between law and the CPC in our budget. So it's CPC pays the heavy of that. It's like a 58,000, 41,000 split.
Okay. So we'll need a green page, a new green page.
For clarification, if I
Yes.
could. If I'm not mistaken, these are titles, but they're not working titles. Is that the difference?
Well,
and could we get clarification?
Yeah.
Because I know that we had this the first year we did budgeting, that might have been
Right, through the chair. These are civil service titles. Working titles might be different. So they may be using working titles. These are the civil service titles that actually fit within the civil service roles.
So then, again, educate us all. On your page 129, you're listing civil service titles, correct?
That's correct.
Well, then, why would they be listing different titles other than civil service?
I mean, some entities use working titles to more clarify how it is, what the people actually do, because some of the civil service titles can be pretty broad.
Yes.
So a lot of some of our even some of the city divisions that we have will have working titles, but we always list the civil service title because the pay band for that is tied to the civil service title.
But then why don't we have a page that accurately represents who's who and what the positions are?
To the chair, we could take a look at and putting maybe working titles next.
Okay, I think that's important. I mean, it's about transparency. We want to know, we're looking at positions here, and we are being told that these positions here are different than what they have.
It's possible if they're
To the-
using working
to the-
titles.
To the chair, these are the civil service titles that I have on the board. This is the same complement we've always had. I believe there is a misprint in the mayor's budget book sent to
Okay,
you.
well, then that's what we got to get corrected then. If we need a green page, we need a green page.
I want to make sure we get
Sure, yeah.
clarification once again, okay? We have these kind all throughout the book.
Yes.
What we have, and this was actually, this administration started going down this route, which it has confused people, but the issue is, when we passed issue 24, or when issue 24 passed in the city of Cleveland,
Yes.
we basically had to make it fit inside of the civil service guidelines for the city of Cleveland. However, because it operates independently, they have a different organizational structure that they probably have as defined. But in order to set the pay bands, salaries, and everything else, it's my understanding that this has always been in place for civil service. Because even with the project coordinators, if you remember, we got sued by the Civil Service Commission or civil service because we weren't prescriptive enough in the actual civil service title. So I agree with what the chair is saying. What might need to be more clarified is if during our operational times that understanding and clarifying what those working titles are, because on here you have to use civil service in order to pay everybody according to the city guidelines.
In addition to the chair, the council members, in our budget software, we have the list that they budgeted. So what ties to the book is what they submitted in as their budget in PB, which is a city software. So we do have that matches the book. So if something's changed between the time we've had since they completed their budget versus now, we can certainly take a look at it. But this is what was submitted by the police commission.
Thank you. The 2.268, that budget amount was established by the administration.
Through the chair, it's a percentage of
Yes.
the police budget under
Yes.
the charter.
Yes.
So the total there is that percentage.
Okay, that's what I
It's
want to get
required.
clarified. Okay. Questions of the committee? Questions, Mr. President?
Just a couple. Just want to make sure that I understand. Are there salary increases, or is this increase because of head count? And I know that we don't have the budget, but even looking at past budgets, it looks like there's somewhat of an increase. I'm just trying to make sure I understand if this is.
Through the chair to the council person, to the council president. In 23, they had 7 budgeted head count, but they only averaged 5. In 24, they had a 7 budgeted head count. They only averaged 4. And their head count this year is 8. So yes, there's been vacancies within the police commission administrative staff, as well as board members. In December, they had 7. They're budgeted for 11. So a lot of this is just vacancies over the last couple of years.
Okay, thank you. Through the chair.
Yes, sir.
Unaudited 2024, $7,400 in miscellaneous. What is that attributed to, and who does that go to? Because to Councilman Slice's question earlier, by law, we are not allowed to get or receive fees for any department that is allocated directly to the department, because that would be an unvoted tax. So does this $7,400, even though it's a small amount, go to the general fund, or is it going back to the commission? Because that would be a challenge if that was the case.
Yeah, through the chair to the council president, this was a reimbursement to the general fund for grant-related travel. So they had a grant that paid for this, so we reimbursed. General fund initially paid for it, this reimbursed.
Okay. Good to know. Those are the questions that I have, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Other questions of the committee? Councilwoman Stephanie House-Jones.
Thank you. Through the chair to the team here, looking at the comparison, the staffing levels,
What page you're looking at?
129. The assistant director of law, it says it's split, but it's a 0 in the budget for 2025. Can you all explain that, please?
Who can explain that? Director?
Through the chair to the councilwoman, that's in law, that position.
Say that again?
through the chair to the councilwoman, that position is in law.
In law.
Yep.
Okay, the position is in law, but this budget does account for a portion of it in law? Is that how that works?
Yeah, through the chair of the councilwoman, there'll be a chargeback. Usually it's a 50-50, but I think the attorney was a little bit higher, and the police commission's picking up a little bit more than half of it, but it gets charged to law initially. There'll be a journal that transfers the proportionate share over to the police commission.
Okay.
And we had questions during the safety committee regarding a timeline as to when there would be, going through the process of looking through an executive director. And I guess, is the executive director listed? Is that under administrative manager? What's the civil service position for that?
I think right now we have
Who can answer that?
Goodrick, an administrative manager. To the chair, in the budget book, it's under admin manager on the very top line on the sheet.
Is that Mr.?
Okay, and then who would be the other admin
Well,
manager?
wait a minute. Mr. Goodwick, would you agree with that position?
So through the chair, that's how they had to list it because it has not been established in the system through civil service yet. So
Thank
it
you.
has, when that position is created in civil service, it will show up here. But right now, the highest rank we have in their system that they can apply is administrative manager to my office.
Gotcha, thank you. Counsel
Yes.
Lane?
And through the chair to the, so it'll be, okay. And then, so when is it's slated to the commission members that are here? When are we going to get through this process and get an executive director?
To Mr.
For this-
Identify
for this
yourself for the
commission.
viewing public, please.
I'm John Adams, co-chair of the commission. To the councilwoman, through the chair. So we are probably 3, maybe 4 weeks away from finalizing the process. The outside firm that we hired is currently conducting interviews. So I know that there's going to be several rounds of interviews. So they have received all the applications. They have started the first round. They've completed the first round of interviews. I believe there's a meeting next week on the 24th. To sort of review that first round of applicants and move on to the second round. So we're predicting that sometime early next month that we should be completed with the search.
Okay, thank you for that. And I'm asking the question because, oh, Lord, baby Jesus, all the Jesuses for this so we can have a level of stability. It is desperately needed. That's all my questions.
Thank you. Any other Councilman Casey?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, to the director, what's the total police budget that's budgeted for this year? Is it the 236 million? Okay. And then per the charter, right, we have to offer 0.05% for grants, correct?
Through the chair, 0.5%.
Right, but 0.5% for grants, correct? Does under page 128, under the sub-grantees, does the $1.1 million equal 0.5% of the police budget?
Through the chair, yes.
If the police budget goes up or down, would that number fluctuate, Mr. Chairman, to the director?
Yes.
Okay. And then, does it say anything in the charter aside from what we have to offer them for grantees in regards to their budget?
Who can answer that if he can?
For the grant making, it's just the 0.5. For the total budget, it can't be less than $1 million, but it's adjusted annually under whatever the consumer price index is.
All right, and I don't know anything about the consumer price index. So, Mr. Chairman, to whomever, is back in 2023, it cannot be less than $1 million, but adjusted for, we'll just say inflation, okay, was 1.7, correct? 2028, it was 1.8. Has inflation hit that much that we're going from 1.8 to 2.2 for the additional 400,000?
Through the chair, that's correct. It's annually, so you have to compound the inflation annually.
So is it annually, Mr. Chairman, to, I don't even know what your title is, Nicole.
Budget administrator.
Budget administrator. Is that annual from year to year, or was it from when they started?
Through the chair, from when they started.
So we adjusted annually from 2023 to 24, and then in 25, we're adjusting for inflation from 23 to 25?
Through the chair, yes. So we weren't 100% sure, but we did check with law to make sure it was year over year.
That's, okay, Mr. Chairman, to the manager, that's not year over year, right? So did the inflation for the increase in the budget for 2025, is the adjusted rate from 2024, or is it from 2023? Is it adjusted from when they started, or is it adjusted from in 24 we adjusted for 23. In 25 are we adjusting for 24 or for 24 and 23?
Mr. Gentile?
The chair of the councilperson, it's adjusted each year, but so the first year we have to take the consumer price index. That gives you a new basis. Then you got the next consumer price index, and we have to continue to add the consumer price index from the basis of the previous year.
Okay. Then on page 128, Mr. Chairman, to the director, under full-time permanent, we have increased the ask from 20 to 21 for number of employees, but yet we've got a $218,000 increase. When we know that the board members would not get an increase, I don't believe, because you're set by PERS standards. So where is the additional 200 and whatever it is, 18,000 coming from in one additional employee?
Yeah, so through the chair to the council member, 2023, we had budgeted a head count of 7, but they had only filled 5. So that's why that spend.
Oh, that's right. We
lower.
don't know that because it's not in the book for 2023.
Well, in 2024, they had a head count of 7, they averaged 4. And then in 2025, we're budgeting for 8. So that's why the amount is higher.
Am I looking at the Community Police Commission under number of employees for comparison of staff levels on number 129?
Yep.
My book has that you budgeted for 20 in 2024. You have
correct.
11 employees as of December, which I would assume are all the board members, and then you're budgeting for 21 in 2025.
So through the chair to the council member.
Hold the mic a little bit closer to you. There we go.
Through the chair to the council member, those are total full-time employees. So if you look under professionals, that's where we get the 8 from.
Okay, then are the board members under contractual services?
Through the chair, the board members are under board member, right under the full-time line.
Okay. So we're paying an additional $218,000 for one additional employee, right?
Through the chair to the councilman.
Take the board members out.
If you look at the full time in December of 2024, they actually only had 4 people on staff, so they had 3 vacancies. So now we're staffing them back up to 8. So when we staffed them back up to 8, when they only had 4, it's basically that gap mainly is due to vacancies, the 200,000, because they weren't staffed up to what we had budgeted them before, and now we're staffing them at 8 when they only had 4 actually on payroll at the end of December.
Okay.
All right, and then, Mr. Chairman, to the director, looking at these, I'm looking at the board over there for the executive director or the executive director, not class, whatever that is, okay? What would that working title or the civil service class be equivalent to in the book today? The executive director. Where's that in the book?
Through the chair to the councilman, that's administrative manager, the top line.
Okay, but you're budgeting for 2, Mr. Chairman, to the director, and we only have 1 executive director who's supposed to be the administrative manager. Why are we budgeting for 2 if there's only 1 executive director?
Okay, let's
Through the chair.
Okay, who can answer that?
Through the chair of the council person, Civil Service Commission is in the process of trying to approve the title of the executive director. Once we have that, the title will be split out, and they still do have to hire an administrative manager. They have a vacancy there. But once Civil Service approves that title, they'll be able to budget for it. We'll be able to put it in a book. But because Civil Service has not created that title yet for executive director, the Civil Service Commission, we could not put that in the book. So we put that official title.
Well, Mr. Chairman, to the director, and we won't deal with this now, but this came about in 2023. It should not take civil service 2 years to come up with a classification of executive director, let alone budget for 2 of them. We don't need the one we got now. I mean, you want 2 of them?
Through the chair of the council person, they're only going to have 1 administrative manager that's vacant, and then they'll have an executive director once this is done. Civil Service is close to creating that title.
All right, Mr. Chairman, and to the council president, when civil service comes up with this, we need to know what's going to be the role of the executive director, what's going to be a role of an administrative manager, what's going to be the role of an assistant director. I mean, right now, it just looks like they're just putting titles out there and just throwing numbers, hoping that they stick. So this is, to me, completely wrong. And how do you pass a budget when we know that this is wrong? It's putting us in a situation, a precarious situation.
Well, there's reconciliation, obviously. It has to take.
Yeah, but we
place.
can't,
Yeah.
during reconciliation, we can't reclassify.
No, we cannot.
Mr. Chair, if we could answer to his question.
Yes, you may.
I'm going to just be very blunt. The way that issue 24 was written is very complicated. And it was written in a way where a tremendous amount of independence was given to the board and the commission to give it latitude to oversee the police department. However, when it comes to hiring and how our processes work at the city of Cleveland, that's where you have the disparity. Civil service rules and laws dictate how we hire onboard people, what titles we have to use. Their independent operation is voted on allegedly, or I guess by the board, which gives it its operating structure. What they are in the process of trying to do now, after meeting with the board members, is trying to go through civil service and get the right titles. What Councilman Polinsik requested of the staff earlier is that we get a better clarification of each of these working titles so that we have a clarified understanding of who's doing what job. And I think that's a fair question you're asking for that.
All right, and it's taken 2 years, but heaven forbid, the Cleveland Police Commission decide to, not be difficult in trying to come up with something as simple as a job title. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions of the, yes?
I do. I'm sorry, because I was talking CBC through the chair to the finance team. Can you go over how many times in a year have CPC members met?
We've asked for that, and we've asked for attendance records as well. Yeah.
That they've, I just, so, no.
So wait a minute, wait a minute, through staff, we had asked for the number of meetings they've attended, the attendance record. Did we ever receive that? Yes, it was sent out. Say that again? It was sent out yesterday.
Wait,
Okay.
it was yesterday?
Yes.
Oh, good. Okay. So the reason why I'm and a quick question, as is talking about the output metric, Is this inclusive of the entire body or individual group? You know what I'm saying, like subcommittees, things of that nature?
Whoever would care to comment?
Through the chair, so in the first metric, number 1, that is the entire board meetings. Typically, they're once a month. In 2023, it's a little higher because during their initial training period, they were meeting twice a month. And then we have 14 in 2024 because periodically they don't finish their agenda, so they call a special meeting of the full board. So sometimes you go a little over 12, but typically you'll see a 12 there. In the second column, we have roughly half dozen committees that meet at least once a month, sometimes twice a month. That's the aggregate of all those committees. A committee is consistent of 3 board members minimum and up to 5. So the full board meetings would have 13 in attendance if it was fully attended, and a committee meeting can have up to 5.
And then, okay, so the meetings are only the first 2?
Through the chair to the council person, that is correct.
And that is inclusive of the police policies passed, police trainings passed, and discipline petitions in those meetings?
Through the chair to the council person, that is correct. So the work metrics 4, 5, and 6, and even 7 are done through the committees and then subsequently advanced to the full commission.
And then I guess the question I'm really trying to get to is how long usually are the meetings, the standard?
Through the chair to the council person, meetings, full commission meetings are 2.5 hours. And committee meetings typically are 2 hours, but sometimes they've gone as long as 3 or 4 hours, depending on what needs to get done.
So what I'm going to ask to the staff, if we can do a comparison of the time and the hours spent for the CPC commission members in comparison to our other commissions, that would then lead me to a more informed proposition for during reconciliation. Because one of the things is I do believe that our CPC board members are committing more time than our other commissions, and really trying to look to see if we can be a bit more equitable in compensation. I don't know what that takes when it comes to the board and stuff like that, but it's just a consideration. But again, to look at it holistically. And I will say to the board members, it makes it very difficult to advocate for equitable investment when the performance has been what it's been. As we are looking to get CPC, there will be new board members. At the same time, I do believe there are new board members, and we need to set people up for success. And so that is kind of where my realm is coming from, to set people up for success as we are looking to get an executive director. We have new CPC members, and the intent is hopefully they will meet just the intent of the people when people pass issue 24, having partnership, things of that nature, and not this level of mass chaos that has been under, which is the narrative. I'll say that. Whether it's happening or not, that's the narrative. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, just one
Yes,
quick point.
quick point.
Just in addition to that with the staff, just for clarification, and this might be the legal team that has to look at this, I believe, Councilwoman, and just to your point, that any board seats that are commissioned, hence what governs our city rules by what the actual working titles and efforts are, would have to be set, I know, by the Civil Service Commission, but it may even have to be set by PERS rules. But if we can get the answer to that, because if that's the case, we probably need to assess all boards, because there are some boards that probably work more and harder than others. But I don't think we can arbitrarily change that unless we get an opinion, and I want to make sure that we get the legal support to back what is the rules around that, okay?
Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to, and again, that's one of the things I think we need to look at comprehensively. That's what I said before I gave a
Okay.
specific suggestion that we
okay.
need to look at.
We are in the home stretch. Judge Nelson, closing comment.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh,
Go ahead. Wait a minute. Councilman Spencer, you had a question? Go ahead. Okay. Because we have one more department due.
Got it. I want to, before we move on, confirm my understanding of the statutory requirements of the CPC budget. 0.5% must be of the police budget must be for subgrantees, and the actual overall annual budget, so because we began in 2023 at 1.75 million, are all future budgets forevermore benchmarked against that initial? So whatever even though it could have been $1 million because it was 1.75 in 2023, we are statutorily required to benchmark the budget based off of that 2023 initial budget, if that question makes sense through the chair.
Through the chair to the councilperson, yes. So each year we will have to increase it based upon either the CPI or the increase in the police budget. So it's either or, whichever one is greater.
Okay, all right. Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Chair, for the
I
clarification.
have one question, Chair. I just
Yes,
have one
ma'am.
question. Yes, Chair, I just want to make sure that the board members that we have here are the ending board members from the previous year. I just want to make this clear. This is the board members that left, that are leaving, that's on.
That would
that's
be
it.
reflective in 2024.
That's reflected 2024.
Right. And as we go on, this year will be new board members.
Okay, yes, yes, I just want to be clear on
Okay.
that, that's all. Thank you.
Judge Nelson, your closing comment.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. To the chair and to the council, I served previously on 2 boards. I served on the Civil Service Commission, and I also served on the Regional Sewer District, representing the city of Cleveland on the Regional Sewer District. And I served on that district for 15 years and on the Civil Service for 6 years. As I've looked at the responsibilities of this commission, there's no commission appointments that the city makes that has the responsibility or time requirement associated with this one. I actually asked Mr. Goodrich and the other members who are present here today how many hours they typically spent in meetings. And it runs about 10, 12 hours a week. That's about 48 hours a month for a commission that pays them $7,200 a year. $8,900, I understand now. I have not yet onboarded because I have some concerns about that. It may cost me more. I may lose more in my HRA than I would gain from the salary of the commission. I've talked to Councilwoman House. We talked when I was interviewing. I believe that this commission that is being organized with your oversight will provide the kind of work that will make both the city proud, that will accomplish the goals. However, I'm extremely concerned that if they're not compensated properly, that you may have not a fall off because of desired performance, but there will just be the time commitment will overwhelm them. I also understand from the work they were doing before, those who were doing the work, that they were extending a tremendous amount of their personal time to the detriment of their own employment. Now, I'm not speaking in terms of the chaos. I talked to President Griffith about how it was onboarded before, and you had a commission of people who had zero, at that time, experience in serving on a board of this nature.
Yes.
Had I been in a position, I would have put people like Ellen Conley on it, who helped coordinate the county council. I would have put people on like Donna Nelson, who ran the Civil Service Commission, or Denise McCrae, who served on city planning, that kind of person. But we did what we did. The folks who are here now have learned, they have gained significant amount of experience, and the process, it will be better. But I just want you to follow Councilwoman House Jones's suggestions and take a look at that budget.
Thank you.
To reflect the quality of the work.
Thank you,
Mr.
Judge.
Chairman.
Thank you very much. Okay, without objection, we're moving on. We have one more department to do. Yes, Ms. Adams? Briefly.
Thank you. To the chair, I just wanted to call to the council's attention this memo, this letter that we wrote to Council President Griffin on February 5th requesting additional funds to do the CPC's work. So what we're asking for is we're asking for additional staff. I know that when we came to council previously, there were questions about, you know, if we needed additional staff because we weren't fully staffed. Right. But at this point now, we're fully staffed. Okay. And what we have is one community engagement person for the entire city. What we have is a policy backload that includes the drone policies.
Yes.
And we would like another person for that. And we would also like to move, I know that there's also been a lot of talk about getting out of the consent decree. I know specifically, you know, council people here don't want to pay the monitor anymore. And the CPC agrees. We don't want to stay in the consent decree. We would like to move this city out of the consent decree. And we believe that some additional funding is needed to do that. I know that when you look at our budget, you see the 0.5% for the grants that come from the police budget, and then there's roughly $1 million to operate. But once you add up the numbers from our personnel budget, once you add up the numbers for just basic things like paying rent and paying utilities, the CPC is left with roughly $50,000 to operate all of its projects and activities. So what we would like to do, and especially in light of recent discoveries, we believe that we would like to focus on bias-free policing. And if we can get a consultant for bias-free policing, we would also like funds to do a community engagement assessment. That assessment would not be an assessment of the community per se, but that assessment would be to ensure that the police's engagement with the communities are meeting what the consent decree says that it's supposed to meet. Okay. So it would be sort of like an audit, an overview assessment of basically the impact of how the police are engaging with the community. And then lastly, in light of what has happened with recommendations and appointments and promotions, we would like to get some funds to do a deep dive into background checks for the commander recommendations. I think currently right now, there may be, if I'm roughly 7 positions that are in interim. Yeah. Well, the charter states that these positions will not be permanent until the CPC makes a recommendation. And in light of everything that's come out, we want to make sure we put the right people in those positions. Okay. So I would just want to put that out there. That we are all also asking, and I think that total comes up to $350,000.
Thank you very much. And as we said earlier, we've already spent $26 million just on the DOJ. So 26 million, not counting all the other departments and sections had to be created as a result of the DOJ's engagement in the city of Cleveland. So we'll take your considerations we'll take it into consideration, and will be discussions. Yes, one last comment. We're moving on. Yes.
To the council through the chair. So when I worked in Slavic Village, the resident-led group initiated a home repair project. We estimated to repair every home that needed repairs in Slavic Village, it would cost $5 million. We ended up raising $100,000, and we fixed up a few residents' homes that were in much needed repair. Our staff, our CPC staff, estimated that for the past 10 years, the city of Cleveland has spent double that on the consent decree. That's $10 million. That's about $100 million in the past 10 years on the consent decree. After reviewing the monitor's 15th annual semi-annual report, the CPC believes that we can achieve all CPC goals by January of 2026. So CPC can achieve every single goal under the consent decree to get out of it within 2 years if we get the funds necessary, and we are supported.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Without objection.
Just one quick question, Mr. Chair. Was that Is that ask in the budget, or is that ask in addition to what's in the budget book?
Whoever can comment.
To the councilman, through the chair, this is an additional ask because what we
All right, thank
we
you.
requested, it wasn't included in the mayor's budget.
Thank you. Thank you. So without objection, we will move staff. We'll move on to the, I believe it's the last department, is it correct?
2 left.
2 left? Okay, the council president will take over at this moment. Lucky him, okay? No, I got to be at WTA.
Page 120, Office of Professional Standards.
We don't need to pass out anything.
Yeah.
We just need to go over the budget part. I think we got the budget. So we can just give it,
Yeah.
we don't need to pass out anything.
Just collect it, Madam Clerk.
collect it, and
Yeah,
then we'll
go over the budget. Thank you, Council President.
What is the budget page, if we go to the staff? The staff for this is the Police Review Board, Cleveland Police Review Board.
Office of Professional Standards,
Professional
page
Standards.
120.
All right,
120.
I got you.
Administrator Marcus Perez. Page 122, 2024 unaudited salaries and wages, $952,384. 2025 budgeted, $1,365,666. Page 123, 2024 unaudited total expenditures, $1,533,905. 2025 budgeted, $2,112,918. Number of employees, December 2024, 14. Budgeted 2025, 19. Chair.
Thank you, Director and Mr. Perez.
To the chair, no comments. We're open for questions.
Thank you. Before I go into mine, did we have any other body that had any questions to ask? I think some of the similar questions. Thank you. If we could, I'm asking if everybody could make sure that those books are returned. It's something that I really want to make sure that everybody, if they could return those books, it's reason why we need to do that, okay? All right. All right, just a couple of the questions that we had before about 2025 budget. It looks like you guys have some additions, Director. Looks like it's about 1.3 for salaries and wages. Why are those increased? If you could.
Yeah, to the chair and to the committee, 2023, we had budgeted a head count of 17, and they only had 10 total head count. 24, the head count was increased to 18, and they were able, they had a head count of 12. And this year, we're budgeting a head count of 19, so that's the reason for the increase.
Okay, thank you. Interdepartmental charges, the bottom line, especially charges from telephones, seem to have gone up significantly. And the total bottom line for charges for interdepartmental seems like it's increased. Why has that gone up significantly?
To the chair, through the board.
If you do the Mr. Perez, please proceed.
123.
I usually give them an opportunity, but if you have any clarifying information, if you could, okay? Mr. Gentile and then Mr. Perez.
So much higher this year.
To the chair, again, these are the internal service funds. So we take when we do the budget for all the internal service funds, we take what it's going to take to operate them, and then we split it out amongst all the divisions and to basically break even. So telephone exchange has a lot higher expenditures. And you're going to see telephone and also radio communications. As you see these different budgets, when radio communication also comes into play, you're going to see a higher amount. One of the reasons in telephone exchange we have some increase because we've staffed up 311 a little bit with the new, we added like 3 or 4 heads to that. So telephone exchange is going to be higher in most of the budgets than previously spent.
Not sure I understand that, but are you saying this is going to be more expensive for interdepartmental charges throughout all the budgets?
Yeah, to the chair, yeah, you will see that, specifically telephone and radio communications. Radio communications, once we get to it, they're staffing all the cars with new radios, all the cars throughout the city. So as they do that, there's an expense, and also we replaced all the 800 megahertz radios as council approved mid-year for like $20 million for safety.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to understand.
So
Okay.
radio communications will go up in telephone exchange also.
That's, be honest with you, that's why I'm trying to understand. I kind of, two things that give me pause. You know, some of us that's been around for a little bit remember conversations, and we know that we have this 50-year deal with Motorola that we're still engaged in, that I think we're still paying for.
We just finished.
We just finished it? Okay. We got this $20 million that we just put halfway through the year, and it looks like our costs are still going up. And I'm not understanding, is it because of the product or because of new technology, or what is making that cost go up?
Yeah, to the chair, the radios that we got were actually the handheld radios that were like 16 million. The 4 million was for the CAD system that we did that council approved for safety kind of mid-year. Now all the police cars, because their radios are really old, they're being re-equipped with brand new radios, car radios, because they're very antiquated and old. So now we're kind of doing that now. Radio communications is doing that.
Thank you. These are small dollars, and I've learned not to freak out over small dollars. However, why isn't this a capital expense? Why are we doing this out of operating? Why are we doing this out of capital?
Through the chair to the council chair, we did the one that we did the 20 million, which was 16 for radios, 4 million for CAD. We did that last year. We did it out of capital project using general fund. This one here, it's an internal service.
I'm coming back.
The radio is using capital to do this, but we're reimbursing the radio communication division for these capital expenses out of the operating budgets.
Thank you. I'm going to allow Councilman Casey a point, and then Mr. Perez did have a response as well.
On that point, Mr. Chairman, we're going to be going over this in utilities with radio communications on Friday, so we'll have a better explanation of
All right,
why
looking
that
forward to it, because, you know, some of us that have, you know, I call us old fogey stogies on council, remember these conversations. And when we see some of these numbers pop up, it makes us remember, well, we already just invested X amount of dollars in these. So when we're having these conversations, it's good to know the big picture of how there's different streams of funding that are going into this. Okay?
Yeah, I would say we talked to Brad Hankey from Radio Communications a couple times, and we got his request. Because I know when we saw the amount of money and then what the chargeback was going to be division by division, we're like, what is this? Because we just spent $16 million on radios for the general fund divisions. So we're like, why is such a big increase? So it's primarily around the cars. And once he gets here on Friday, he'll have a much better explanation than I have. He knows all the ins and outs of the radios.
Thank you. And Mr. Perez, I know you had a couple of comments about your department.
Just through the chair to the board, the Office of Professional Standards has 4 city vehicles. We don't have any radios. So this doesn't really apply to us, although, I'm not really sure where the radios are, because I know it's been taking a little bit of the time. We do have cell phones that our investigators do use.
Okay.
Yeah, through the chair, they don't have radio. I was just talking in general. You're going to see under internal service, so they just have telephone.
I get it. No problem. And just as a follow-up, this is one of those departments, once again, and I just want to give full disclosure. I really advocated big time with the DOJ, being one of the authors of the consent decree, to include a lot of these operations in city operations. One, because I knew how long it would be to stand up some of these departments, and number 2, how important it was so that they can have the support of the city's legal, fiscal, and operational teams. So, we run into these problems sometimes with clarifying language where Mr. Perez clearly said, well, I'm not sure, but you guys understand, and it's because they're kind of separated from the oversight of city day to day. So just so that everybody can understand that, the listening public, we have a couple of groups that actually operate independently, but the city still stands them up. Okay? All right. Any other questions for Office of Professional Standards? I do want to ask, and this is more operational, I'm going to really ask the chair this year, because even some of the authors of issue 24, I've asked how we can look at trying to see where we can not duplicate services. I know that the voters voted for issue 24. However, you got Community Relations Board, Office of Professional Standards. You got several other components that are trying to do police community relations, and at some point in time, just like they're looking at the Office of PIO, CRB, REC, I think that we need to do a cost-benefit analysis of all these other departments as well, because as oversight of taxpayer dollars, I think we reserve the right to at least look and see how all these things fit and make suggestions on if we need to streamline some of these departments, okay?
Council President?
Yes.
Along that line, can we, before just looking at it, because we are the legislators, I think it would behoove us to not only just look at them, to look at these things and put together a plan, period.
Councilwoman, that's exactly what we want to do.
Like,
and it's
versus
a couple
talking
of
about it.
different clusters like that.
Mhm.
And actually, Councilwoman, I have a plan that I want to show people that actually models New Orleans, and it's something that I would love to talk to this council about. Okay?
Sounds good.
Thank you. Any other questions about Office of Professional Standards? Anybody else, Office of Professional Standards? Mr. Perez, thank you. And I know that Mr. Perez had a presentation stood up for us, but in light of some activities that took place yesterday, I didn't want to put us in a awkward position.
So yesterday was TPC, not.
I know, that's why I said I just didn't want to even put
So-
you or anybody else in that
Understood.
awkward situation.
So if you have any questions, now would be the time, because this will be my last budget hearing with the city. So if you do have questions, I think this would be a time to ask, but if not, that's fine.
They can contact you operationally, and we'll go from there, okay?
Okay.
All right, thank you. All right, any other questions for Office of Professional Standards? Seeing no other questions, we'll move on to, I believe, that's the last one? Hey, we adjourn.
Police Review Board.
Oh, Police Review Board. See, you got me all excited, Councilwoman. All right, where is Police Review Board? If they could come to the, that is the same?
It is the same person.
So let's keep Mr. Perez. Mr. Perez.
Page
Or you got
124, Police Review Board, Chair Billy Sharp. 2024 unaudited salaries and wages, $90,819. 2025 budgeted, $132,738. 2024 unaudited total expenditures, $180,236. 2025 budgeted, $251,763. Page 126, number of employees December 2024, 9. Budgeted 2025, 10. Chair.
Thank you. Did we have any other comments, Director?
To the chair, no comments. We're open to questions.
All right. Any other questions for either the Director or Mr. Perez while he's here? All right. Seeing no questions, we will move to adjourn. Thanks, everybody.